bespoke radio for the masses.
Headline edition, July 8, 1947. The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found and is now in the possession of the Army.
If the game is rigged, change the game.
Game changer.
I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
This is Fade to Black with your host, Jimmy Church, on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
I need your help to get to the year 1985.
You're listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Network.
Well, good evening. Fade to Black, bespoke radio for the masses. Yeah, man. In a great mood. Why? Because it's Wednesday, September 13th. Just 256 days into the new year, 109 days left. Can you believe it? We're live from a bunker somewhere in downtown Burbank, California. And I would like to welcome everybody listening all around the world, all across the United States. Hither and thither, to and fro, back and forth, up and down, east and west, north and south, far and near. This is Fade to Black for KJCR, the Game Changer Network, and KGRA, the planets. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. What is going on, everybody? How you doing? What is cracking? Yeah. Tonight, I'm in a good mood. Why? Because Scott Wolter is here. He's back. We're going to talk about his latest Templar research and the Cremona Document. I'm calling it the Cremona Templar Document. It's an amazing story, an amazing piece of research, and a potential game changer to all of history. And we're going to go through that story tonight and his travels, his journeys that he has done with this document. Absolutely incredible story. So buckle up, kiddies. This is old school Fade to Black. We're going to get our knowledge on tonight. And tomorrow night's going to be another Fader night with John Rappaport and his No More Fake Newsroom Live. We may bring in some special guests tomorrow night. We're working on that right now. Bigfoot related, but it's not what you think. And we're going to try to get that lined up. Okay, so there you go. So that'll be tomorrow night. The call-in numbers are 323-825-5045 or 323-275-9695. Follow us on Twitter at JChurchRadio. Facebook, YouTube, everything is Fade to Black, J Church Radio, Jimmy Church, Fade to Black, blah, blah, blah. Just go and click on those. Make it simple on yourself. Just go and click right there. You know, it's funny. You go and you search. You look at, we've got different, apps and software that we run for the station here, for the network. And so you go and you look up some of the search terms and things that people are using to find us, and it's pretty funny what is in those search terms list. Use your imagination. Hang out with us on Twitter, though, at JChurchRadio. Hashtag F2B is the sandbox. We don't bite. Come and hang out with us. And we have both chat rooms are open over at KGRA and, of course, over on Spreaker. And hang on. Once in a while, you get something in your throat, right? Well, it just happened. And that's the mute button. That's what it does. That's the cough button, the coffee button. Any questions or comments during the show, just use hashtag F2BQ, Fade to Black questions. You can also email throughout the show, and that is Jimmy at jimmychurchradio.com. All right, just make the email good. It'll make its way in here to me. All right. And then if it doesn't, after the show, okay, everybody's talking about my toe. After the show, I get all of the email. And I try to read it all. I really do. I shouldn't say try. I do eventually read it all. Some days are worse than others when it comes to that kind of stuff. Everybody's talking about my toe. Look, since it's out there, it's very simple. I like to wear sandals, but I won't be wearing sandals anymore. The last couple of months, me and sandals just don't agree with each other. I seem to be kicking everything. I could be in I could be on a basketball court, nothing in front of me, wearing sandals, and I will kick a table leg. I will find it. I don't know how I do it, but I do. And last month I crushed my pinky toe wearing sandals up at Shasta. It was pretty nasty. Ripped the toenail off. Did the whole thing. Nurse Nancy was there. Threw a cast on it. And, so I limped around for a couple of days and could barely get shoes on. But, okay, all right. So I got past that. Today, I literally just doing some stuff around the house. Rita's got her list, get up early. This is what you're going to do today. And so I have my list of projects. And I kicked a piece of sheet metal, bent sheet metal. It's bent. It's like an I-beam thing. It's a piece of furniture sitting on the floor that hadn't been assembled yet. That's a long story in itself. That's another project I got to get done. And I just spin around, boom, and I kicked right on the end of this sheet metal, which weighs, this thing weighs like 15 pounds. So it didn't move. And right on the tip of my big toe, and just cut my toe in half, which I'm talking gnarly. I just looked down and I went, oh, man, here comes the pain. So anyway, I got some duct tape on it, and, Rita's cure-all for everything is, Windex. So I'm all good, and there you go. And I'm heavily medicated. And tonight, what's really cool with all of that is we have Scott Wolter here. So I'm heavily medicated. I've got a throbbing toe, and I'm in a great mood. And I've got Scott Wolter in here, and that makes for a great show. So let's do it together. All right? There you go. But I say no to sandals. I'm done with. I'm done. I am so done with sandals, and I love my sandals. Yeah, Eric just posted those. If I wore those into the house, right? Okay, Rita, it would be bad. It would be bad. No, I don't even know what those are called. Keens? Are those called Keens? Yeah, can't do it. Everybody's posting the Keens. Look at those things. That's some heavy toe protection right there. That's funny. That is funny. You know what, Eric? That deserves a retweet because that's comedy at the highest order. So anyway, that makes for a good show. I love it when Scott comes in, and he and I manage to have the correct and most wonderful conversations, and that allows the knowledge to come out. And it's just so cool. So I'm very excited. Scott's in here tonight. We're going to be talking about the Cremona Document and his knowledge. What makes Scott so fun is he's a really cool guy, right? But it's what he is about. The things that we love here, lost history, the Knights Templar. The Knights Templar right there, that subject. We could do a month of shows on the Knights Templar, and I would be right there. All right, what's up with the Dimebag Daryl? Look at that. You guys are good. All right, let's get this show cracking. Let's go. Today, really quick before I do that, don't forget that we do have a podcast, and you can get that podcast for just $2 a month. We have over 700 archived shows there, and it's just $2 a month. Apple, Android, whatever you need. Just go to the Apple Store, Android Store, Google Store, Android Store. And I guess that's correct terminology. Chrome, right? And download what you need, just $2 a month. And you can also become a fan or not. Go to our membership area And you can go all the way from free Fade or Not all the way down to Game Changer, T-shirts, all that stuff. You get the Bunker Cam, autographed hats, commercial-free, downloadable archives, and everything that you want to become a Fade or Not. So there you go. All right. All of our sponsors, Life Change Tea, GetTheTea.com, River Moon Coffee, New Pharma, Ancient Life Oil, Sacred Skulls, Studio Dome Speakers. Please visit all of them. Man, what is up with these really cool gifts? Follow us on Twitter at JChurchRadio, because right now in hashtag F2B, Bloke, my man, Mark Tarana, is posting pictures of the Bullet Mustang. Greatest car chase scene of all time. That will get a retweet every time. I got a couple models of that Mustang. Yeah, I do. It's one of my favorite cars. 68 Mustang, 68 Mustang Fastback. All right. And what was I going to say? Oh, so Rita and I wanted to talk about this really quick. We don't do the fear porn, right? We don't give into it. But after the last week with, Mexico City and the fires here in Burbank and across the United States, the Western United States, and of course the hurricanes and everything, and the talk about people being prepared, and then, we had, Mate shows us some pictures of him going to a market there in Miami, trying to stock up on food for him and his family, and little baby Martin needs his baby food, right? Well, anyway, no food. So Rita says, hey, is that my picture? Where did this come from? Ah, that's my skull right there, or it's close. Very cool. Thank you for that, Bob. I'll get a retweet. It's very close to my skull. Yeah, that's cool. Anyway, so Rita says, anything happens, we're not prepared. I said, honey, let's not give it, but, and I had these strange dreams. And so we went prepping. And we feel pretty good right now. We did. We went and, we were just like, okay, flashlights and food and, what do we do? So we went and got all of the stuff. Well, I mean, I feel pretty good right now if the duty hit the fan tonight. My family would be fed for the next 30 days. Okay, I feel pretty good about that. More important than that, I got enough instant coffee right, to last. But flashlights, glow sticks, battery-powered lantern, USB charger ports, things, batteries, extra battery, tons and tons of backup batteries, cases of Duracells. We've got all of the food. Not only did we get canned goods, but we got everything. We just had, camping stove, Bunsen burners, gas, paper plates, napkins, all that just and a couple of the big plastic storage boxes, which we've got already. So we had and stuffed it. So we've got one stuff full of food and one stuff full of emergency supplies, just in case. And have you done that? And I'm not trying to fear porn anybody. What I am suggesting here is if anything goes down, are you ready? I mean, I'm not talking about, handguns and hunting knives, even though that's not a bad idea, gas-powered chainsaws. I am just saying food. Our dogs, our children, our family, water. Right? And things like that, it's not expensive. It's not. And, it was funny. Last night, Rita and I are, hey, we want some snacks. Rita goes, you want to break into the emergency food? So, yeah, meals ready to eat, MREs. So we looked into that, too, as well. And we are continuing to look into that. But we just wanted to make sure that we had things. A peanut butter, honey, crackers, canned meats, canned, pies, things. Just, protein bars and sugar and fruit, the fruit that you it's in tinfoil pouches that you drink. All of that stuff, right? Just to make sure that you have something just in case. Because it's, and I felt better. Yeah, vodka, Scott, the vodka is always stocked and ready to go over here. There's no doubt about that. That's one thing for sure. The hunter-gatherers out there, when it goes down, will be coming to our house for the vodka. That we will be trading vodka. Yeah, that's a commodity. That's better than gold. So have you done that? And we did it this weekend. And I actually went to bed with a smile on my face, knowing that if anything went down, I wouldn't have my family looking at me going, hey, protector, what have you done for us? So I've got 6 flashlights and a lot of spare batteries and a couple of glow sticks and some protein bars and a case of water. You guys will be safe. That's what I'm talking about. All right, let's get this show cracking. Happy birthday to today. Dave Mustaine is 56. Dave Mustaine. I almost did a Dave Mustaine impression. Oh, I'll do it now. Who knows the name of this song? What do you mean, I? That's my Dave Mustaine. That's Dave Mustaine. Also today, one of my favorite guitar players right now in this country. I know you think I'm about to say Doug Aldrich, and I almost did. But one of my favorite guitarists right now, Joe Don Rooney, lead guitar shred master for Rascal Flatts, today is 42. And if you've never checked out, Rascal Flatts, but Joe Don Rooney, go and check out some of his videos, his instructional videos. Listen to his tone. Watch him play. That dude is a gift. Joe Don Rooney today is 42 years old. Also today, fate or not, Larry Holland is the big 4-0. Man, 40. A kid. The big 4-0. Man, I don't even remember when I turned 40. That's how long ago it was. Our dead guy's birthday today is none. OTD. On this day in history. I need one of those sound bites. OTD. Lightning and thunder. OTD. Tupac Shakur dies in 1996 of gunshot wounds suffered in Las Vegas in that drive-by shooting right there on Las Vegas Boulevard. And I cannot believe it's been over 20 years, 21 years. How crazy is that? Okay, I got a fader fact for you. And some fader facts are this is one of them. Fader fact. Led Zeppelin was refused entry to Singapore back in 1972 because they had long hair. Yeah. The band was scheduled to play in an outdoor show, but officials at the airport refused them entry. Not only were Led Zeppelin not allowed into the country, they were not allowed to get off of their plane and had to turn around and fly back to London. And that is a fader fact. It was going around all around the world. All these conservative countries around the world were all freaked out about freedom of speech and expression and what was going on in the early 70s, late 60s, and long hair and drug-crazed Americans influencing everything. And that was the mood of the world. And there were tourists in Singapore and in other countries, but in Singapore, a documented fact here, that were told as they were visiting the country to either cut their hair or they had 24 hours to leave. Think about that. That was 1972. Anyway, that is a fader fact. Tonight, Scott Wolter is here. It's back. We're going to be talking about the Templars tonight and the Cremona Templar Document. I wanted to talk about this really quick. I brought up, you know what? Before I start screaming, hit this River Moon coffee, fade to black blend. I talked about Bitcoin 4 years ago on the show, and when I brought it up, I think most of you didn't really know what I was talking about. Maybe you heard about Bitcoin. Most of you didn't, right? What's going to go on with it? What's going on? And I've been fascinated with it ever since, and the dark web and what it's used for and so forth. Well, anyway, it's back in the news, and the value of Bitcoin right now has gone up so much. That's it. They're not making any more, by the way. Russia wants to start regulating it. I think they want to recognize it as a real currency so they can start controlling Bitcoin. And I think once that door opens, it is, it's going to be a different party. But right now, it's pretty free form, right? It's pretty crazy. Well, a report by cybersecurity firm FireEye now says that North Korean hackers are targeting cryptocurrency exchanges in South Korea. And according to FireEye, hackers had linked to North Korea have stolen Bitcoins from at least 3 South Korean cryptocurrency exchanges since May of 2017. And they're getting through. They're using spear phishing, that practice of sending fake emails and dispersing malware. And they're getting into these virtual cash stores. Now, a Bitcoin exchange, if you don't know by now, a Bitcoin exchange is a virtual bank. Okay, it's where people go with Bitcoins and they buy, sell, trade. Okay, they're held. You remember, it's all virtual. They're held there, and you can deposit. You can do all kinds of things. Bitcoin exchange. It's a virtual bank. Now, to me, that is just a wide open situation for a hacker or for somebody with a bad agenda, a bad moral compass. And cryptocurrency attacks were first reported by North Korea and detected back in 2016. In April, 4 wallets on a Seoul-based cryptocurrency exchange, and they're called Yapazon, those were compromised, but cannot be clearly linked back to North Korean involvement. Yapazon announced losing 3,816 Bitcoins worth about $5.3 million. Just virtual theft, gone. Can't trace Bitcoin, allegedly. Can't trace Bitcoin. It's just yours. The company, however, did not disclose who it believed to be responsible for the crime. North Korean hackers have also been suspected of intrusions into global banks back in 2016. And you remember me talking about that on this show. Well, the United Nations Security Council unanimously approved a new resolution of sanctions against North Korea back 2 days ago on September 11th after the country conducted its 6th nuclear test. Well, following a series of behind-the-scenes negotiations that went on all day Sunday, diplomats agreed not to ban oil exports to North Korea. That's what the United States wanted. They wanted a total ban of oil going into or out of North Korea. That's pretty crazy. Instead, the 9th set of restrictive sanctions against North Korea authorized an annual cap of 2 million barrels of refined petroleum products to North Korea. It also banned North Korea's textile exports, which are the second biggest export for the country, and that's worth about $750 million. And this is according to data from the Korea Trade Investment Promotion Agency. Chinese and Russian negotiators managed to persuade the U.S. delegation not to impose a travel ban or an asset freeze on North Korea's leader, Kim Jong Fatty Fat. Now, North Korea said before the sanctions were approved that the United States would face pain and suffering, and Pyongyang was ready and willing to retaliate if the vote passed. Well, it did. Now, so I guess that pain and suffering is through Bitcoin. And I'm just going to say, ouch, but not really. The real question should be, why isn't there more security with Bitcoin exchanges? That's the part that I don't understand. If you are a Bitcoin exchange, and we are talking about potentially tens of millions, hundreds of millions of dollars on your computer servers, because that's where it sits, right? This isn't cash. This isn't Dosh. This is Bitcoin. And it's sitting there. How can that not be like Fort Knox? How can that not be the most secure situation ever? How do you, and if it was me, if I had Bitcoin, you know what I would do? This is what I would do if I had Bitcoin. That's where it would sit. Right there. You see that? A USB storage. That's where I would have my Bitcoin. It wouldn't be on a server. My Bitcoin wallet would be a wallet, just like that. That's secure. That's offline. You lose it, you're broke. But if you lose your wallet and your wallet's got $10,000 in it, it's gone. It's the same thing. That's what I would do. I cannot believe that these Bitcoin exchanges are vulnerable. And I do know, and I've been told 1 million times by some of the most savvy, brilliant hackers on this planet, personally, one-on-one, that nothing is safe and nothing is secure. It's not air-gapped, whatever. They will compromise it. And the most secure system in the world, something air-gapped, they will take something like this and get a body in there and plug in what they need to plug in to access your stuff. But this is safe. Get your Bitcoin right here. That's what I would do. Unbelievable. It's an unbelievable situation. And that North Korea is going to navigate around these sanctions by doing what? Stealing your Bitcoins. It's crazy. It's pretty savvy. All right, this is Fade to Black. Let's get out of here. Tonight, the one and only Scott Wolter is here. We're going to be talking Templar, Knights Templar, and the Cremona Document all night long. This is an amazing piece of research. Nobody does it like Scott Wolter. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. This is Fade to Black on the Game Changer Network and KGRA, The Planet. Follow me on Twitter at JChurchRadio. You can follow Scott at Real Scott Wolter on Twitter. I'll be right back with Scott. Stay right there.
You're listening to Jimmy Church, Fade to Black.
Fade to Black will now pause for alien identification.
The station that talks the net. KGRA Radio. When you take the beans from Central America with dashes of Indonesian and African mixed in and then roast it to the dark side of Fade to Black, you create the ultimate brew of fringe. Introducing the Fade to Black blend from River Moon Coffee. Yes, River Moon's darkest customized roast was created for the love of Fade to Black. The alchemy of masterful roasting and smoking the beans is in every sip of this full-bodied dark Java. I need my coffee dark, deep, with distinct bittersweet chocolate highlights, just like the bunker. Leaning further into the darkness of the roast is Fade to Black blend from River Moon Coffee. Just click on the banner at jimmychurchradio.com and use the promo code F2BBLEND for 15% off of your order today. Go Beckley Teppy.
Hi, folks. Let's wind the clocks back 60 years. Food was different. Food provided health and nutrition, and using supplements was minimal. Unfortunately, now we have chemicals, GMOs, herbicides, and pesticides that can be quite lethal in the name of our food supply and, of course, the ever-loving dollar. Supplementing our diets can be very important to stay healthy. Cleansing from daily intruders to the body might be critical. Live strong and take charge. Log on to getthetea.com. Our herbal tea is a great way to cleanse from intruders. Our supplements is a great way to maintain and improve your health. When your health is not up to par, go to getthetea.com. No GMOs, no fillers, and organic, and very helpful in keeping you at the top of your game. Life is too short to feel, you know what I mean. Stay in the game, at the top of your game with GetTheT.com. That's GetTheT.com. Again, GetTheT.com.
9 out of 10 geneticists agree.
Fade to Black is not your father's radio show on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, The Planet.
Win big with KGRA this summer. Tickets and hotel accommodations to the biggest conferences, autographed books and DVDs, chances to win all-inclusive conference cruises, and private dinners with your favorite KGRA hosts. Click the contest tab at kgraradio.com for your chance to win big this summer. Your contact for the best alternative talk radio on the planet. kgraradio.com.
Hi, this is Rob Reiner from Anvil, and you're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com.
What's up? I'm Chris. What up? This is Kyle Massey, and you're listening to Jimmy Church Radio.
All right, welcome back. Fade to Black. Truly bespoke radio for the masses. Yeah, man. On the Game Changer Network and KGRA The Planet, I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, our guest is Scott Wolter. Want to remind everybody, tomorrow night, another Fader Night, open lines with John Rappaport and his No More Fake Newsroom live. Scott Wolter, he's an author. He's the host of History Channel's America Unearthed, one of my favorite series of all time. Is it coming back? I don't know. Maybe we'll peel that news out of Scott tonight. He has been the president of the American Petrographic Services since 1990. Scott is responsible for the independent petrographic analysis testing laboratory where the Kensington Rune stone was brought for investigation back in 2000. He has been the principal petrographer in more than 5,000 investigations throughout the United States, Canada, Puerto Rico, including the evaluation of fire-damaged concrete at the Pentagon following the attacks of September 11th, 2001. Tonight, we are going to discuss the Cremona Document, how it involves the Templars, the time, the location, the reasons, and possible proof that they were here in the United States 200 years before Columbus, and maybe even reveal the name they had for America before it was, well, you know, America. And I would like to welcome back to Fade to Black, Scott Wolter, petrographer. How do you say it?
Get that R in there, petrographer.
Petrographer. Man.
Yep, you got it. You got it, man.
Scott, how are you? Everything good?
I'm doing great. And it's great to be with you again. We always have fun, and we're going to have fun tonight.
You know, I wanted to ask you before we kicked off the show, are you a prepper? Do you have, if the stuff went down in Minnesota, whatever that natural disaster or man-made thing, right, whatever goes down, are you and the family good to go?
Well, it depends on, what goes down. I mean, let's face it, if we had some type of major catastrophe like the hurricanes that are going on and people are out of electricity and all that.
Yeah, tornadoes.
Well, the reality is you can stockpile as much water and food as you want, but at some point you're going to run out. I mean, how long can you hold out? And really the frightening thing is unless people find a way to work together to help each other, if it turns into an every man for himself thing, I don't know how long anybody would last. I mean, it's
but you also have
it's a scary thing to think about,
I know. Well, scarier than that is your wife, Jana, coming in going, okay, we've had no electricity for 2 days, big guy. What have you done for your family? Right?
Well, I'll say get the bow and arrow out. Let's go. I mean, I honestly, it would be devastating for society if that happened. I mean, we've We've developed a system and a society where we depend on a lot of things to happen for us to live the life that we enjoy. And I'll tell you what would be worse. We don't need to have a natural catastrophe or war. What happens if we had all of our computer systems go down?
I know. You know what? That is one of the craziest nightmares. Imagine this scenario, right? This could be a good series for History Channel.
You mean if everything went fade to black?
Yeah. Some crazy coronal mass ejection, right? And literally knocked out all of the electricity, all of the communication, everything, everywhere, done, right?
We would be back in the Stone Age, and it would be catastrophic. And, there are people that talk about these things, and I'll give you an example. Look at some of the major airlines. You see it pop up on your Twitter feed now and then that the computers went down for Delta Airlines. All their planes are grounded. And, think of the money they lose and the inconvenience to people that are traveling. If you've ever been delayed because a flight crew was late, think of the but what if your plane was down and there were no flights for a week? To say nothing of what if the entire grid went down?
Yeah.
What would happen? You can't, all of our food deliveries are tied to computers. All of our businesses, all of our infrastructure, all of our police and fire and hospitals and
water.
If it all went down, it would literally be fade to black.
It would be fade to black. And this is the other thing. This is where I've just kind of tripped just a little bit. You wouldn't have access to news. So you wouldn't have the ability to find out what's going on. How long is it going to last? Who caused it? What's going on? Is somebody coming to our rescue? You wouldn't even have. You would just be completely on your own. And wow,
you know what? This brings back a fun memory of something that happened here just a couple of months ago. We had a friend visiting from out of town. He's a Freemason, and we were doing research on the subject matter we're going to talk about tonight.
Right.
And the power went out just on a couple blocks of our street. So we had a guest over. We had no power, and we basically sat up later than we probably would have otherwise by candlelight and talked, and we couldn't cook any food, so we made sandwiches, and, we had a little bit of, cold in the fridge, but, we knew that it was going to be on in a matter of hours, and it came on at about 1 o'clock in the morning, and all the smoke alarms went off, and that was a panic, but no, it was something that we actually had a lot of fun with, but after a day or two of that, it wouldn't be fun anymore.
Yeah, we have solar power. And a couple of years ago, a transformer, there was a car accident, up the street, and the power went out. And I wake up in the morning, and we don't have any power. I don't know what's going on, and I wander into the kitchen, but we have solar power. So everything was kind of working. Right, and I took out some coffee, and I put the beans in the coffee grinder, and I'm still in my fog. Right, I'm still in bed technically, and I go to grind the beans, and it was going right. So it's not like it wasn't working; it was kind of working. So I'm pounding it on the on the counter, doing that caveman thing, trying to figure it out, and I could see but it was. So solar power is not going to bail you out either. We've got solar power, but it's not enough. So anyway.
Well, what it's going to do is it might help you over through the important stuff you got to get done. But it the life that we know now would totally change.
Yeah.
And and I got to say it's not a far-fetched thing. This whole idea of the power grid going down and our computers being shut down. We had one of those ransom viruses that hit our work last year in December. We lost 2 weeks of work. Our phones didn't work because they were all tied into our computers.
Right.
Couldn't work off my computer. I had to work off my cell phone.
Right.
And I'll tell you what, I don't know what the final tally was, but it was expensive. We never paid the ransom, but it shut us down until they could get it going again. And that's just a small microcosm of what could be a global problem that could be catastrophic.
I know. And I was talking about this at the beginning of the show. So we went out, with everything that was going on here, because we had the fires that were going on here in our city in Burbank, and that was going on. We had the Hurricane Harvey going on, and then Irma's coming in behind it. The earthquake hit in Mexico. We all know about earthquakes in Southern California, and our town is burning down. And so Rita's like, and we were just kind of tripping. So we went and we just stocked up, man. We prepped, and we got emergency lanterns and batteries and glow sticks and flashlights and 30 days worth of food, and packed it all in the garage with cases of water, and we went to bed that night feeling pretty good. I mean, just because.
Well, you know what? If nothing else, if it gives you peace of mind, then it's worth it. And why not? I mean, the water's not going to go bad, and, the canned food's going to stay good for a long time. But, you talk about all these catastrophes that are happening right now. In Minnesota here, we're in about as stable a place as you could be. I mean, we get our tornadoes and things, and we get some pretty rough storms. But for the most part, we're in a nice part of the country, I like to think, as far as natural disasters go. But I have to say, over the course of the last 2 to 3 weeks, we've had the most amazing, mornings and sunny days with this weird sort of haze that was a lot like the beginning of the eclipse when the sun is being obscured. Right. But it's all due to the forest fires that are in Canada in the west that affect us here. And in fact, I walked outside of my house just tonight again. I mean, this is like, I don't know, almost a month long. We can smell the smoke in the air, like somebody's, got a bonfire going. But it's not anywhere near us. In fact, it's hundreds of, if not over 1,000 miles away. But yet it still affects us. So it's kind of a weird time.
I know, and I'm not a fear porn guy, but Irma is not fear porn. That went down, right? Harvey is not fear porn. It is just a natural disaster, and you just never know, right? Are you ready? Most are not. When we went through the earthquake in '94, that was a big quake. That was the real deal stuff, and the epicenter was right underneath our feet. And to see what happened to not only where we lived, which was red tagged, and what happened to our town and our city and all of Los Angeles was crazy. And I didn't even have a flashlight. I had nothing. I was really, really caught and unprepared, and as was most of Los Angeles. And I swore that I would never do it again. And I think like most people here in Los Angeles, they went out and bought all of the earthquake supplies that they never used, which are probably buried in their garage now or used up or not there. It's out of sight, out of mind. And if if something like that goes down in L.A. again, nobody's going to be ready. And that's it. We just wanted that peace of mind. Anyway, we just did this, and
let me. Hey, before we venture on, I just want to ask you one more question, not to open up a huge can of worms.
Sure.
But in light of all of these things that are happening, sort of at the same time right now, is it a function of global warming? Is that a real thing?
I know.
Have humans really affected our planet to the point where they've caused some of these natural disasters? Have we brought some of this catastrophe on ourselves? Is it a real thing? I mean, I don't want to get into the political side of this because it'll piss me off, but it does beg the question, and not just the question, but the timing of the debate that we're having in this country, in the world, and all of a sudden it's kind of like the world is saying,
pay attention.
Is there global? Have you affected the climate? We're like getting slapped across the face right now. In my opinion, the answer is, well, duh. That's my opinion, and I'll just leave it at that.
No, and this is what's crazy about this debate. It is so polarizing. It's just as polarizing as the election last year. You bring up global warming, and if it's real and if it's not, that right there is going to cause anger on both sides. But then you have the other sides of each one of those sides where people, it brings out the worst in them, arguing this point.
It does. It absolutely does. And I'll tell you what really strikes me is the ultimate in hypocrisy. And that is that, and there are some people of certain belief systems that are guilty of this as well. They love and enjoy the benefits of science and technology and the conveniences that it affords their lifestyle, like cell phones, like cars, like TVs, like computers, and you know what I'm talking about.
Right.
All that science and technology is great, and they love it. But when suddenly, that science and technology, gets in the way of their belief systems, whether it's global warming or their faith, all of a sudden there becomes a double standard. Well, no, the science isn't right there because there is no global warming, but yet they just totally accept it on one hand, but when it doesn't fit their, their
that's
beliefs,
right.
then they question it. And I just see that as just blatant hypocrisy, and it's BS is what it is.
Yeah, because you will have, there are some pretty bright people out there, right, that I respect, pretty bright, that will turn around and depend on that technology to make their point on some of the most esoteric theories. Mm-hmm. And whether it's ET or have we been to the moon or not? We're talking about heavy technology, right? Satellites and space exploration. And they will argue their point till the cows come home that some of these really far-reaching theories exist. And I may believe in some of them. But then they will turn around and say, out of the same brain, that global warming is not real, that we haven't caused it. That the science isn't right, or they'll say the opposite of that, right?
Well, how can they say the science isn't right when they're not even scientists, and the scientists are saying it's right, but they're saying the scientists are wrong because they don't want to believe it? I mean, that's where it just goes off the rails for me.
Ding, 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 ding! Look at the big brain on Scott. That's
well, and when you talk about things going off the rails and hypocrisy and people embracing science on one hand and facts on one hand, but then they want to refute them on another. That brings us to our topic tonight, pre-Columbian visits to America by the warrior monks. And there are people that just absolutely won't go there. They won't even talk about it. And, it begs the question why. And it all falls into the same thread we've been talking about.
Well, let me start off here. I want to, for the audience that maybe is listening to you for the first time, certainly, take me back for a second, Scott. Rocks, concrete, and dirt. What happened in your life that you went down this road? It's so very because
how did I get on this road of the Templars? Right?
No. Well, that's later.
Go from rocks to Templars. I mean, it seems like a ridiculous leap. Is that what you're asking?
No, that'll be the next question. The first one is how do you get into rocks and dirt? I mean, most kids want to be an astronaut, right?
No, when I went to college out of high school, I went to college on a football scholarship. I was going to be a pro football player. I mean, every kid coming out of high school going to play college football, I mean, they all have that dream, right?
Right.
And so I went there, and basically my first couple quarters of class, I majored in eligibility because I was a football player, right? And I didn't know what I was going to study. I think I was a reasonably smart guy, but I didn't know what I wanted to do until I took a class, Intro to Geology, that was taught by a guy named Dr. Charles Match, who would eventually become my advisor and my close friend until he died a couple of years ago. But he was the one, I took his class in geology, and he was so passionate and he was so good at explaining things logically. And one of the things that I loved about it is it all made sense. It all fit together. And, together with Charlie's passion, I was just sucked in, and I loved it. And I got an A in the class, and I'll never forget at the end of the class, one of the things that he did, because he knew we were all freshmen taking this class, is he would, sit down and have a conference with every student. And he called me in when my turn came, and he said, Scott, he said, you kind of have a talent for geology, but I don't think you can do it. The old negative sell, right? And
right.
Of course I picked up on it right away, and I said, I don't know. I said, this is kind of interesting, and, I might be interested in following up on it, and, if I was, what should I do next, And I was definitely interested, and he knew it, and I knew it, and he said, well, I'm teaching a 3,000 geomorph class next quarter. He says, you might want to look at that, and so I signed up, I took it, and I got an A in that, and towards the end of the class, I went up to Charlie after class, and I said, hey, Charlie, I'd like to have a meeting with you. And we used to joke, and he knew I was giving him shit, and sorry about that. Anyway, so we had the meeting, and I went in there, and I said, so if I was interested in pursuing geology, I said, I'll only do it on one condition. I'm giving him conditions, right? And he said, what's that? I said, if you would be my advisor. And he said, deal. So that's how I got into geology. And I think the thing that is important here is I feel so fortunate that I had a mentor like Charlie. If I had never met him, I probably wouldn't have gone into geology. Maybe I would have, but maybe I wouldn't have. And who knows where my path would have gone, and I never would have met you.
Yeah, that's kind of strange, isn't it? It's really weird how life works that way.
Yeah. So, I was really sad that Charlie passed, and the thing about it was I was actually shooting America Unearthed when his funeral, during his funeral. I couldn't be there, and it was killing me. But my daughter was in school at the time, and she wasn't studying geology, but I asked her if she would go to the memorial, and she did. And all my professors were there, and I felt like, I couldn't be there, but my daughter was there, so I really appreciate the fact she did that for me.
Before we hit the break, we've got about 4 minutes. I wanted to ask you, it's not really a strange question, but you're the right guy to ask. When it comes to, when you go to conferences, and you and I did a conference last year together here in Northern California, and when you walk around conferences like that, these awareness, consciousness type of conferences, you have so many vendors that are selling rocks and crystals, and I know that you must visit them. So what do you think about some of the theories? Like right now, I'm holding up for the camera right now for our video camera, a Shungite pyramid. Right. And so and the properties of Shungite or other, or quartz, or, all of these different crystals and rocks. Do you study the properties of those two? Sure. What do you think about that?
Well, first off, rocks and minerals do have their own unique properties that we study, and these are the things we use to help identify them. And, when you start talking about, energy and, the other properties that rocks and minerals have, it's not something that they teach us in geology, but there are some other things that I think are undeniable about, energy in the earth, gravity, radiation. There's a lot of things that are going on, and one of the things that we're going to talk about tonight with the Cremona Document is a place where the Templars visited here in North America. What's interesting is this particular place is associated with, and what I mean by that, its location is extremely close, like within a mile of a 6-mile diameter impact crater where a meteorite hit the earth, punched a hole in the earth, and if you look on a geographic map today, a topographic map, the rivers run in a circle around this 6-mile diameter crater. Now, why did they pick this place to come? And why do natives consider this place sacred? I am 100% convinced it has everything to do with the geo properties of associated with that meteorite impact. It disrupted the magnetic current of the Earth in that area.
Right.
You also get a concentration of metals like gold and silver and other economic minerals along those vertical pipes. That changes the magnetic properties and radioactive properties of that area, and people can pick up on that. Can I do it? I don't think so, but are there people that can pick up on it? Absolutely. Can certain Native Americans within tribes do it? Absolutely. There's no question there are unique properties to rocks and minerals, but I think it takes special talent and special individuals to be able to tap into it. I don't know the science behind it. I just know that it is.
Well, you and I have talked about agates and exchanged pictures and stuff over the years, and I know you've got your famous book on agates. Do you, what's around your house? We've got 60 seconds. Do you have some? Okay. Do you have some quartz? Do you have?
Well, my wife is sitting right here. We've got beautiful a triple cluster of three, what some people would call Herkimer diamonds. But these things are like 4 inches in diameter, and it's a cluster of three, and it's sitting on our fireplace mantle in our living room. And we have friends that, Masonic friends that delve deeply into the esoteric world, and they come over to our house and they recharge them. And they say that they kick off positive energy here.
Right.
My wife loves it, and I just say, hey, listen, why not? So we got rocks all over the place, minerals, quartz, amethyst, agates, of course, labradorite, you name it, we got everything.
Yeah, I've got a big bowl of pyrite sitting right here. I got a bowl of it, right? I mean, I just got...
You know what? If nothing else, from my perspective, whether there's any real properties going on or not, that can be debated. All I know is it makes me feel good. It gives me a positive energy, and... that's enough for me.
Yeah, that's exactly right. That's exactly right. All right, let's take a break, and when we come back, we're gonna dive into this research, and the story is incredible, everybody. So get ready. This is old school Fade to Black. It's Scott and Jimmy getting your edumacation on. Let's do it, Scott. We'll be right back.
Got it.
We'll be right back after this short break. Our guest tonight, Scott Wolter.
This is Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
This is KGRA Digital Broadcasting Station, Salt Lake City, Utah, Van Buren, Arkansas.
Hello, and you're listening to my main man, Jimmy Church, on jimmychurchradio.com.
Hi, this is Ray Hobbs here, repping the planet, and you're listening to my good friend, Jimmy Church, Fade to Black, on the Game Changer Network and the KGRA Digital Broadcast Station.
This is Toby Kebbell. You're listening to jimmychurchradio.com. Don't hurt me, Jimmy. I'm only little.
Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier.
And this is Ari Gold.
We're the Honey Brothers.
Yes.
We're of the Honey Brothers. Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier.
And I'm Ari Gold.
We're the Honey Brothers.
And you're listening to Jimmy Church.
The Revolution.
Ancient Life Oil. Life-changing. The real oil. CBD is truly ancient life oil from the source. This oil has no psychoactive effect and is also legal in all 50 states. When you're healthy, you're happy. The truth about this wonderful plant is that it wants to give back to mankind life, longevity, and happiness. Ancient Life Oil are golden grade, all organic, non-GMO, and infused with high-quality liquid coconut oil. It's simple. Just go to ancientlifeoil.com today. That's ancientlifeoil.com. The best, purest, organic, and non-GMO CBD in the world. Go back, Lee Tappy. The statements made regarding these products have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. These products are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. Please consult your healthcare professional about potential interactions or other possible complications before using any product. What's up, Fadernauts? Studio Dome loves Fade to Black and the F2B audience so much that they have put together the ultimate stereo Bluetooth system. They've done it just for you. Man, check this out. The Studio Dome SBB2 stereo system is here. It's featuring 2 Studio Boombox 2 SBB2 wireless Bluetooth speakers, packed in its own custom hardshell case. This Studio Dome system features the very latest in stereo Bluetooth technology. The 2 full-range boomboxes are in true wireless stereo. You've got to hear this. It's amazing. It's just $129, and use the promo code JCRTWS, and you'll also get free shipping. It's simple. Just go to jimmychurchradio.com, click on the Studio Dome banner. Go back, Lee Tappy.
This is Micah Hanks of the Gralien Report, and you're listening to Jimmy Church on Fade to Black, across the globe on the Game Changer Radio Network and the one and only KGRA Radio, The Planet.
All right, welcome back. Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church, on the Game Changer Network and KGRA The Planet. Our guest tonight, Scott Wolter, host of America Unearthed, author, researcher, Templar guy. And that is our subject of conversation tonight. And this document, okay, so we're going to start, Scott, let's go back to the beginning. And originally, it was called the C, the letter C, not S-E-A, letter C.
Right.
The C document. So what is the C document? It's called the Cremona Document. Originally, it was called the C document. Why was it called the C document? What is it, and where did you find it?
Okay. Well, actually, this is something that I've been sitting on for about 11 years. I've known about this document, for that long, and because of the people that brought the research to me, this wasn't something that I found. It was brought to me. I was asked to keep it quiet, and so I did that. And but when I wrote my Akhenaten to the Founding Fathers book in 2013 is when it came out, the people that were working on it felt that because there were hooked X's in the document, and I'm the guy that brought the hooked X to the world, they thought that I should be able to publish that information, but only that information. And so that was an agreement I made with them, and I appreciate the heck out of them letting me do that. In addition to that, several years ago now, they also asked for our help to go to a place where the document says the Templars visited back in the 12th century. And actually, we were not the first people to go there. The people that went ahead of us, one of the people that went ahead of us, took us there because there was some unfinished business. Let's just leave it at that. And so we went up on the mountain, and there were certain clues that were left by those that were there in the 12th century, and like carvings on rock and geographic features. I'm going to be a little bit vague in what I say because I want to protect this place, and we're hoping to be able to talk about it on a future television program. So we're not going to give away everything, but I can talk about what's already been published. And anyway, so we went up there, and sure enough, these geographic features were all there.
Well, actually, we're getting a little bit ahead. Let's get to that point in just a second.
Yeah, okay, yep.
Let's
anyway, so just to finish the point about what they were, they allowed me to publish, the hooked X, which appears in this document, or at least on one map, and the table of contents, that I was allowed to publish. But one of the reasons why it was so important is that this is absolutely 100% without any question a Templar document. It's being used in a similar manner as I had already published in my Hooked X book and Compelling New Evidence, and it provided additional evidence to support the argument that I made that this was a very important and indeed sacred symbol to the Knights Templar, and this was a Templar document, and sure enough, there it is. And it's also being used in association with these secret trips to North America that they took many, many, many times. It wasn't, a trip here and a trip here. They were coming over here on a regular basis for hundreds of years. And actually, for years, Jimmy, one of the things that I've said to people that just defies common sense is that, the narrative today, the historical narrative, wants us to believe that, the Vikings came here around the year 1000. Right? That's been well documented. They finally admitted that in the early 1960s, when for decades it was already known about Launceston Meadows up in Newfoundland. But it was finally accepted in the 1960s, and so we know that there were Europeans that came to America about 1,000 years ago. But then what they want us to believe is that nothing happened for 500 years until Chris came, right? That guy that didn't set foot on the continent that already had millions of people living here?
Right.
That guy?
Yes.
Yeah. So, but think about that. For 500 years, nobody was here. I mean, it's like they want you to believe that there was there, a fence around the continent or something? Nobody gets in, nobody gets out? I mean, it doesn't even make sense, right? I mean, the Phoenicians were coming over here thousands of years ago. The Celts, the Vikings, the Irish, everybody was here. And, the Templars really, if you want to be truthful about it, they were the Johnny-come-latelys. So, that just never made sense to me. It just doesn't pass the smell test. And indeed, they were coming here all the time. They just didn't tell anyone.
Exactly. Now, if we are talking about the dating of this, and we'll get to that in just a second, but also that period of history is not long after the Templars returned from Jerusalem, and everything started to break down in Europe too, as well, for them. It's a very interesting time for them to also date this back to the United States. Very interesting.
Yeah, but and when you talk about the eventual downfall of the Knights Templar, it's a story that if you read it from an academic standpoint, you understand it to be one way, but the truth is that it's really a much different story. I mean, the Templars, their tradition is much older than the Templars didn't just a bunch of 6 guys got together, 9 guys got together and decided to form this monastic military order. These people were bloodline descendants of people that embraced a similar ideology that goes back thousands of years. This is a continuation of an ideology that is ancient and certainly goes through Egypt.
That's right.
But this was their time, and these families decided to get together and put up the money and put up, their blood in the form of their children and their family members to found this order. And they had ancient knowledge that was passed on to them by their ancestors. And so this whole legend of the Templars going to Jerusalem and capturing the Holy Land and then digging under the Temple Mount and finding this treasure, that's absolutely true. And that's exactly what the story is in the Cremona document. It's a first-hand narrative of those knights going under the Temple Mount and what they discovered and most importantly, what they did with it. And this was not something that they heard from somebody. This is something that they already knew. They knew what they were looking for. and they found it. And part of and this knowledge goes back to the 1st century and beyond. But part of what they found was information that talked about other information that was much older in the form of scrolls that had been brought to an ancient land back in the 1st century. That was part of what they found in the 12th century in Jerusalem. That's where that material had been hidden. And then it took several decades, but eventually an expedition was mounted, and they came over here to recover those scrolls.
Now,
and that information.
Yeah, and so in the book it's called the C document, but now we're revealing here that it is called the Cremona document.
Right.
Why was it created in Cremona, and who created it?
Well, the creation of the document wasn't necessarily in Cremona. That's where the document ended up for many centuries, in a monastery in Cremona, Italy. And actually, it was going to be donated to the Vatican, actually, by a family, and that family eventually ran into this person that is a friend of our friend now, who is now this person is deceased, but he purchased the document in 1971, and the entire document is encoded in Theban text, and it's encoded in Theban. It's a 1-to-1 substitution of each letter. But even if you figure out the language and then you convert it into English, you still have to use a cipher code word to put the letters in the right place to be able to decipher the message. And the point of that is that it was deeply encoded to protect it, so that it couldn't be deciphered except by somebody who really knew what they were doing. And the guy who bought the document in 1971, it took him 2 years and several trips to Europe, visiting experts to help him decipher it, and eventually he did. And the story that it told is just, I mean, the details are just incredible. I mean, you think, the fictional stories about the Templars is something, the truth is stranger than fiction. But ultimately, it led to an expedition of 140 men and women and 6 ships to come over to the land of what they called Antiora,
which is America, right?
Which is North America, and
well, let me ask you this, Scott. Let me jump in for a second. Do you read Theban?
I do now.
How did you break the code? How did you figure all of this out?
I didn't break the code. The code was broken back in 1972 and 1973. I'm the beneficiary of many people's work over the past, what has it been, almost 50 years. So I came in at the right time, and I came in with the knowledge base that I had, and I'm really glad these people reached out to me. And I got to tell you, it was killing me not to say anything for 11 years, but it's been worth the wait. And during that time, we've been vetting it, and like I said, we've been to the mountain a couple of times. We've seen the evidence, and we are continuing to work with different scholars and authorities in different countries to continue to vet the information. And I'm hoping that it'd be nice to do it. Like I say, we have to document this the right way, and because it's so vitally important. Because ultimately, there are some very important things to be found on this side of the pond that the Templars brought over here as they were preparing to leave Europe and establish what they called a free Templar state. And that free Templar state is the United States of America. And, I've already told the story. I mean, I presented the evidence I thought made the case. Things like the Kensington Rune stone that is 100% absolutely without question a Templar land claim. It was the stake in the ground, and at that point they started bringing people over. And they worked very closely with their native allies. And people, to me, I can't even believe that I'm really the first person to talk about this in a public forum, about the strategic alliance with the natives. It occurred to me years ago.
Right.
If anybody's going to come over here and have success, you have to deal with the natives prior to that little genocide thing, right?
Right.
And so why did nobody ever talk about that? So I reached out to the natives over a decade ago, and fortunately I was able to gain their trust, and they know all about the Templars coming over here. They call them their blood brothers. And why nobody ever reached out to them, I think I know why. And that little genocide thing, I mean, part of maintaining the status quo is if you don't want a story to get out, one of the ways to keep that story secret is get rid of the witnesses, right?
How many pages is the Cremona document?
Well, I don't know for sure how many pages. I can tell you that I have photographs of about 30 of the pages, but I know there are more. But then the pages that I don't have photographs of, I guess I have a couple of the originals. Anyway, the others, we have the translation that the guy who got the document painstakingly put together with his annotations, which is just nothing short of amazing. I mean, and I will tell you that one of the big reveals is a secret that for hundreds of years, up until about 2003, was one of the most heretical secrets that was hidden deep within secret societies, embedded within initiated artists' artwork, sculpture, and paintings, and only came to light when a guy named Dan Brown wrote a novel called The Da Vinci Code.
Right.
But that was one of the big secrets that was preserved within the Cremona document. And in the 70s and 80s and early 90s, when this guy was doing this research, he made a decision that he was not going to publish it because it was too heretical. And if he had only, he died in 2000, so he never knew about the Da Vinci Code, but he missed it by 3 years. That secret that he already knew, that he had the evidence for, and he could have brought to the world, he and his colleagues decided it was too dangerous to do.
Where's the document today?
He sold the document in 1994. I don't know who he sold it to, but it was somebody, I believe, over in Europe. But they didn't get everything.
As this research and the story starts to go mainstream, and I will help you do that, of course. And there's other,
and I can't wait. and I just want to say one thing, Jimmy, as we do go forward, whether it's with History Channel, whether it's with another network, whether we have people ready to privately fund it. It has to be done right, because this is the greatest story that has never been told. And it's the real story of how our country was founded, about what happened with the natives. We owe them a huge debt of gratitude. We would not have this country if it was not for Native Americans and their commitment to the Templars. I can tell you that right now, 100%. And it's important that it's told right, that we involve the people who are the descendants of the people that were involved. We think we can find them, and we want them to be recognized. They're every bit as much American heroes as Thomas Jefferson, George Washington, Paul Revere, and all the rest of them, all those wonderful heroes that fought in all of the wars that this country has been in. But the people, that really get the credit for founding this country, they are just a few of the many that deserve credit, and some of them, many of them, were Native Americans, and they deserve credit for what they did. I mean, look how we repaid them, but in my mind, we don't need to keep going back over that ground. It's time to go forward. We can't change what's happened, but we can fix what happened going forward. One of the things that I absolutely love is I have heard that there are some cities on the East Coast that have decided they're going to do away with Columbus Day and change it to Indigenous Peoples Day.
Yeah, I've heard the same. Yeah,
I think that's wonderful. And boy, if people knew how appropriate that was, they will know. They just don't know yet. But those are the kind of things that need to be done in this country, in my opinion. And some people will disagree. That's okay. But when all the facts come out, I think you might change your mind.
Do you think the owner of the document, once this starts to go public, will step forward and allow it to be seen and analyzed?
Yeah, that's a great question, Jim, and I didn't even think about that because, we basically have the document. We have the information that's in it. We have photographs of it. We have parts of the original document. So we have enough to bring it to the world. But would we love to see the original? Absolutely. Would we give them full credit and thanks for? Absolutely. And so yeah, no, and will that happen? I hope so. But and you know what? I guess deep in my heart, I think it will happen because it isn't talked about very much. It sort of gets into that esoteric woo-woo world that some people are uncomfortable with.
Right.
And some people don't like or don't think it's appropriate for somebody like me who's a hard scientist to talk about those things. But look, I can be a hard scientist and I can talk about these esoteric subjects. And I was always open to those things before, but now that I've become a Freemason and I've been introduced to more of that world, it's real. And you can't deny it. And what for me is amazing is that most of these esoteric concepts that people think are sort of floating out in the air there are really inside of us, but it's also all around us. And what I mean by that is a lot of this is based in astronomy, mathematics, and geometry. Those are sciences. And when you combine those with some of the, esoteric concepts, the stuff that is within us as humans and animals and plants and the whole living microcosm that we are in the process of destroying right now, it's real stuff. And when you open your mind to it and you realize that there is a scientific basis for much of this, it really starts to fit into, a scientific brain better than it might have when if you don't truly understand what the basis of a lot of this stuff is. I mean, if you don't think that what's happening in the heavens affects us on Earth, I'll give you an example. Do you think the moon impacts the world?
The other
ask a sailor. Ask a sailor.
Right. Well, and when you look at all of the angles here, we have the Freemasons, of which you're a Freemason. We have the Templar. We have Jesus. We have Jerusalem. We have Mary. We have this document. We have what potentially could have gone down here in around 1100 AD. All of this stuff comes together. Has this complicated your life and the way that you are looking at Freemasonry and the potential of some of this stuff coming public? Does it complicate things for you?
Well, the only complication I have is, there's a lot of people out there and there are forces that don't want this to come out. And, they take their shots at us, but this is people that are fearful. These are people that are being driven by ego and the desire for attention, and some people it's financial. Some people it's power, control. I mean, the age-old stuff that has been the downfall of so many in the past, and that is part of what's going on here. But at the same time, there are these forces, these facts that are coming out now at a pace that's never been seen before. And again, getting back to sort of that esoteric thing we were talking about, one of the reasons all this stuff is happening now is not a coincidence, but it has to do with something called precession of the equinoxes. You're familiar with that?
Yep.
And the whole, 2012 thing. I could give you lots of examples of things that have happened since that time, but all I can tell you is it's related to astronomy, it's related to science, it's real, and there are people in the ancient times that understood this. I'll give you an example. There's a guy by the name of Brother Malachi who was the closest confidant of Bernard de Clairvaux. He was the Cistercian monk who wrote the charter for the Knights Templar Order. He was one of these guys that started the explosion in the success of the Cistercians and the Knights Templar Order. One of his closest confidant was a Cistercian monk named Brother Malachi. He was the one that Bernard sent to Ireland to form the first Cistercian abbey at Mellifont. Well, on their granges, which is their lands, are 3 megalithic sites. The most well-known is called Newgrange, which is actually a Venus chamber. It's what it is. It captures the light of the setting of Venus when it sets on the December solstice, December 21st solstice. It is more amazing, in my opinion, than Stonehenge in England. And everybody knows about Stonehenge.
Right.
If you haven't looked up Newgrange, look it up. But Malachi, Brother Malachi, who founded that first abbey in Ireland, in the middle of the 12th century, said this: in 2012, the current pope would resign. He said the new pope would be from the New World, not the Old World, and he would be the last pope. 2 out of 3,
right?
And he's still batting.
Right.
I mean, think about that.
Yes.
That's a fact. Look it up. It's called the Malachi Prophecy. How did he know that? Because the knowledge that he was initiated with has been passed on. And if you don't think Francis is on the squad, think again.
Right.
If you look in the last photograph I have of Brother Malachi in my Akhenaten book I published in 2013,
right.
The reason it's the last picture is because right before it went to press, he did this. He was elected Pope, and when he appeared on the balcony for the first time, before he spoke one word in public, he waved his hand and he flashed a sign. And I looked at my wife and I said, he's on the squad. He's going to be different. That Malachi prophecy is true. And he's been making me look like a genius ever since.
Our guest tonight, Scott Wolter. All right, when we come back, genius, let's... Boy,
that sounded pretty cocky, didn't it?
It did. When we come back...
I was on a roll. What the hell?
Yeah, let's start picking this thing apart and talking about what actually is in this document and where it has taken you. Our guest tonight, Scott Wolter. This is Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. We'll be right back.
Way out here, we listen to Jimmy Church.
You're listening to Fade to Black.
Always on the edge of the hottest alternative talk. Jimmy Church with Fade to Black. KGRARadio.com.
¿Qué tal, mis amigos? Yo soy Mario Carson, el tiburón, y los invito para que escuchen a mi buen amigo Jimmy Church Radio. ¡Claro que sí!
Hello, Fadernauts. This is Jimmy Church, and I'm introducing New Pharma, a company whose products are based on science. Human function based on the endocannabinoid system, or ECS. New Pharma firmly believes in this science, and their research indicates that support of the ECS provides the beneficial effects for a healthy lifestyle. New Pharma's science includes relief capsules for pain relief, sleep capsules, which are natural support for occasional sleeplessness, Foundation is support for your ECS, and Fit Capsules support your active lifestyle. Just click on the banner at jimmychurchradio.com and use the promo code F2B for a 33% discount on all of their products. Or visit newpharma.com for all of the knowledge on the science. That's GNUpharma.com. Go back, Lee Tappy.
Hi, I'm Matt Ray for U.S. Gold Bureau. I cover the market daily. No matter how strong it gets or what long-term predictions say, you can count on one thing as certain. There will be another crash. It will affect your assets. And when it happens, wouldn't you rather be 2 weeks or even 2 months ahead of the curve? Well, Wall Street insiders have been quietly converting their assets into gold for the last few years. Now it's your turn. Buying gold and silver is easier than buying stocks with the U.S. Gold Bureau's Investor Guide. It's free, and you learn how to buy precious metals in or out of an IRA or 401k retirement plan. Your investment shipped directly to your home and is 100% insured and guaranteed. You control your investments and shelter them against the stock market, politics, and unknown threats. Act while your dollar is still worth something. Call U.S. Gold Bureau, 800-885-GOLD. U.S. Gold Bureau, 800-885-GOLD, 800-885-GOLD. Call today.
You listen to us, and we listen to you. And so does the CIA. KGRARadio.com.
Hi, folks. CBD is the home run hitter for health right now. Why, you ask? Because of what it does for the body. Unfortunately, I can't tell you all about the benefit. You know, there's reasons. Do your due diligence and log on to ancientlifeoil.com. That's ancientlifeoil.com. Ancient Life Oil uses organic ingredients and is blended in coconut oil for some of the best benefits. Legal in 50 states and non-psychoactive. Log on to ancientlifeoil.com. That's ancientlifeoil.com.
You are listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Network.
Oi, oi, I'm Reese Evans. You're listening to Jimmy Church. This is Revolution. The revolution will not be televised. The revolution is on radio. Ciao.
Welcome back, Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Our guest tonight, Scott Wolter, and we're talking about the Cremona Document. And I want to start to break this document down the best that we can right now. And Scott, I do agree with you. I mean, if everything plays out like it should with the information that is revealed in this document, it could be one of the most explosive history-changing documents ever that has been presented. And there's a lot of curious stuff here, but just starting with, I think it's been accepted for so many years that the Knights Templar were there to find biblical artifacts, get into the caves, get underneath the Temple Mount, and find, gold and treasure and the Holy Grail. But that's not what this document says. What and where were the Templars in Jerusalem? What were they doing?
Well, they weren't just in Jerusalem. They were all over the Holy Land. Holy Land. They were all over the Mediterranean. They were in the Middle East. They were in Egypt. They were all over. And what they were doing is they were rounding up treasure. They were rounding up artifacts. They were rounding up, most importantly, knowledge. And, at the same time, you've got the church doing the exact same thing. They followed in the footsteps of the Templars that were in the Central America, down in what we now call Colombia, Panama, Costa Rica, Mexico, where you have a lot of precious metals. Some of the world's early large gold deposits are in the peninsula and in South America. And the Templars went there. That's where they accumulated a lot of their wealth and impacted the natives in a positive way. And the church gained knowledge of this. They sent guys like Columbus looking for treasure and wealth. And unfortunately, they persecuted and tortured the natives and took the wealth. And it's a horribly sad story, but they were stockpiling wealth. I mean, all you have to do is go to the Vatican. You walk around, and the opulence is just everywhere, and it's over the top. And the fact is, the Templars were doing the exact same thing. And then later on, of course, people like Hitler and the Nazis were trying to emulate the Templars and rounding up the artifacts in the same way. But that's a different story. But that's what they were doing: is they were accumulating wealth and what they thought they needed to establish eventually a new home, because they were not going to at first, when they aligned with the Catholic Church, you remember that old phrase, keep your friends close, your enemies closer?
Right.
That's exactly what they were doing, and they pretended to be Catholic when in fact their ancient faith was geared towards a feminine deity at the top. And it's interesting, while you were on break, there was a woman that just texted a question to me about some artwork I had done about the hooked X and said, why is that downward pointing pentagram in that rose window of that Gothic cathedral? Isn't that, she didn't say this, but it implied that it was a symbol of the devil, because that's what the church said, right? Well, no, it's not a symbol of the devil. It's a symbol of the goddess. It's actually the pattern that the planet Venus makes during its 8-year cycle, as we view it from Earth. And that symbol, which is on our flag, is actually a symbol of Venus and the goddess in the heavens. And that's the faith that the Cistercians and the Templars embraced. But they weren't going to tell the church about that. But when they were put down in 1307, it wasn't just about money. It's never just about one thing, is it? When there's war and persecution and problems that happen between people and groups, there's always more to it than that. And really the core of the problem was they weren't going to put up with this faith, and they saw that the Templars were becoming too powerful, the Cistercians were becoming too powerful, so they went after the guys with the swords and put them down. But they had already laid the framework down to come over here with things like, well, just after that, the Kensington Rune stone, and and eventually the founding of America that was passed on to the brethren centuries ago. I mean, that's what happened. But that story's been suppressed. It's even been lost within Freemasonry. I mean, guys kind of know the story if they do the research, but most of the brothers don't know that. And so I feel it's my job to help bring this not just to light in the Masonic world, but to the entire world.
There's some dates in this document, too, as well. What are those?
Well, the dates that... let me just back up for a second. The Cremona Document actually is a compilation of documents. It's not just one story. It's many stories that are embedded within it. Some of the pages I have seen are encoded in script. I don't even know what the hell it is. I can't even tell you what it is. The guy that bought the document back in 1971, all the years he had it, he never figured it out. There is a couple of pages that tell us about some of the contents that are in the document. They have been translated from the text that they're in, and it's not all in Theban. The narrative of what was discovered under Jerusalem is in Theban, and then the story of that and what's dated are, well, one of the maps has been published. It's on my website. Or on my blog site. It's a map of Nova Scotia, and it shows latitudes and longitudes, and that right there is incredible. I mean, right now science says and history says that the concept of longitude wasn't discovered until the 17th century. Well, that's a bunch of BS. One of the maps in the Cremona Document dates to 1179, and it's got longitude all over it, and it's correct, because it's not using the prime meridian of Greenwich, England that we use today. It's actually using Paris, France. Why Paris, France? Well, there were many prime meridians that were used in ancient times. It just depended on whatever a particular group wanted to use for their map. Well, I don't think it's a coincidence that the Templars used Paris as their prime meridian, and that also happened to be where their headquarters was, during the 12th, 13th, and 14th centuries.
Yeah, you have to have a starting point. It doesn't matter what city or what country you are from. That's your prime meridian back then. And you still have the same problem today when it comes to that. I mean, what the degree is, it's almost arbitrary. You can't.
Well, if you're talking about the length of a degree of longitude, it depends on what latitude you're at. If you're at the equator, it's at its largest distance, right? And when you go to the poles, it's 0. And in between, it gets larger and larger as you go from the poles to the equator. So you have to know what latitude you're at before you can understand the distance of longitude, because it depends where you are on the Earth.
That's right.
And it gets pretty, some of the math that's involved is pretty complicated, but I'll tell you what, these guys had all that figured out. They knew exactly where they were going. They knew exactly what they were doing. And for, certain academics and certain disciplines to try to tell us that was impossible is nonsense. It's just absolute nonsense. And just stop already.
Now, if we are talking 1179, everybody can do the math here, and we're talking nearly 300 years in advance of Columbus, just right there. If we just base it right on the 1179, but they would have had to have been here before that. That just happens to be the date on the map. That's right. That's right.
But remember, they inherited this knowledge. They weren't the ones that did the original mapping. The Phoenicians were coming over here. We did an episode on America Unearthed about the copper culture in the Great Lakes region. And, I mean, look, you had the purest copper deposits anywhere in the world to this day, 99% pure copper. That was back at that time, not long after the glaciers had melted back. I mean, just laying on the ground. I mean, it's still laying in the ground up there. You take a metal detector, you can find it. But imagine what was laying on the ground 10,000 years ago, 5,000 years ago, 3,000 years ago, 1,000 years ago. I mean, it's just tremendous. And we had this thing called the Bronze Age, right? And let's see, bronze, tin, and copper. I guess you need copper, right? And certainly there was copper in Europe and different parts of the world, the known world at that time. But if you knew of a secret location where you could literally go and pick it up as much as you wanted, no mining, just go there and pick it up and put it in your boat or smelt it and put it in bars the way you wanted to, you'd be interested in that, wouldn't you?
Absolutely.
And they came over here. The other thing that a lot of people don't think about is that the water levels in the waterways of the rivers and lakes today, it was a hell of a lot different back then. The glaciers pressed down on the northern part of North America. The lakes were deeper. The rivers flowed, and they were deeper, and it was a lot easier to navigate to these places to get that copper. The rebound, because the crust of the earth has rebounded back, it's amazing. I mean, hundreds of feet. So for people to say that they couldn't get here, they got here. And we see the evidence all over, and the first thing they want to do is dismiss it. I'll tell you about a discovery that was made this year that is going to be on display at the AAPS conference first weekend of October, that was brought to me because this guy went to several universities, talked to several scholars, and they said, that's nothing. This guy was metal detecting up in Kennebunk Beach in Maine. Guy's name is Doug Jones, Jr., and he's a simple guy. He's just straightforward. He's a smart guy, but, he's just retired doing his thing. And he was out metal detecting, and he got a hit. He picked up this thing that looked like a little nail, and it was all encrusted, and he just threw it in his leather bag, and he forgot about it. He thought it was a nail from a ship or an old house or whatever, right? And he was metal detecting at extreme low tide. And then at the end of the season, months later, he's cleaning out his bag and he's putting his stuff away for winter, right? And he pulls out this nail and he looks at it, and on the end, he sees a little gold area. So he breaks off the crustacean of this nail, this crust that had formed on the outside, and it was a rolled piece of metal. He unrolled it, and there was this unknown script on it. And this thing's only about 1.5 inches by 1 inch. And he brought it to me. He showed it to me, contacted me. Someone recommended me. I went and visited him when I was giving a lecture out in Maine. I said, holy crap, man, this thing's amazing.
Right.
I said, I think this is pure gold. And so he flew to Minnesota. We took it and had it analyzed. And sure enough, 99% pure gold. You know what it is? It's a lamellae. It's a talisman that ancient sailors used to wear from Phoenicia, from the Greeks and the Romans, and they would carve a little prayer on this gold leaf, and they would roll it up into a scroll, and they would put it in a leather pouch and wear it around their necks to protect them on the sea. These things are like 2,000 to 3,000 years old, and it was found off the shore of Maine.
Could it have? Well, it's gold.
So
I mean,
what's
could
up
it
with
have?
that?
Yeah.
Okay. How are they going to criticize that? They're gonna probably go after and criticize this guy. But I co-authored a paper with him, and I'm gonna be his supporter because I believe this guy found it. I believe his story 100%, and I can't even recognize the text, Jimmy. I don't know what it is. And in fact, I sent the paper. I just sent it here 2 days ago to MES, Midwest Epigraphic Society. They're going to publish the paper, and I want these guys to look at it because I don't know what the script is. The point is there are so many of these artifacts that tell a completely different story that's been suppressed, that many of them we know about, like the Kensington Rune stone. Many of them we don't know about, like this gold thing that you're going to know about. But there are hundreds, if not thousands of them, and they just put them down. They're all fake.
Well, the skeptics are going to say a couple of laden swallows could have carried it.
Oh, that's right. I forgot.
To Kennebunkport, Maine.
They flew across the ocean, right?
Yeah.
Now, did they do that 2,000 years ago, or did they do it last week when he found it? I mean, I'm not sure. Right?
See, that's exactly the point. You just gave them. I can already see the postings tomorrow after the show. Yeah. But that's very, very interesting. And
well, forget about it. Look, the scholars say this all the time. Well, the most parsimonious explanation is the best one. They got to use a big word to impress you.
Yes.
How smart they are. It's the simplest explanation is the right one. Well, yeah, the guy was metal detecting. He found it on the beach, and it's probably from an ancient shipwreck, or maybe the leather strap broke on the guy's neck and it fell in the ocean. Okay, and it ended up on that beach at extreme low tide. That's the most parsimonious explanation. It's absolutely legit.
Yeah, whenever the skeptics they drop Occam's razor, I'm just like, dude, stop with that, man.
I know, just stop with that.
Stop with that. So let's get back to the map because there is longitude, there is latitude, there are some points. Yep. It is in Theban. There is an A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and so forth there. You are able to triangulate. You are able to glean some information from it. And you did go on a journey. What happened next?
Well, of course, one of the most exciting things that's on that map is there are Roman numbers. And one of those Roman numbers that is in the number 45, which we now know from our research, is the prime meridian or the rose line. And it says right in there, rose line in Old French. But there's a hooked X on the 10, on the Roman 10. And I've seen this in other cases before, where the Roman 10 has a hooked X on it. And so that is consistent. That was... What, Jan? Oh, Jan just told me the Twins won 2-run homer. Yes, go Twins. Sorry, I didn't mean to do that. She
That's
just
okay.
told me. We watched the game all night, and the thing's finally over. It's been tied in the 9th inning. So, but anyway, so a hooked X is on that map. And why did they hook that particular one? Because it's the rose line. Hey, quick little fun fact. Here in Minneapolis, we're at 45 degrees. You know the street that runs through Minneapolis and St. Paul that's exactly on the 45th latitude? You know what it's called?
Templar Boulevard.
Roselawn Avenue.
Yeah, Roselawn Avenue.
Roseline. And the Snelling Avenue that goes right through Fort Snelling, right through The split between Minneapolis and St. Paul is Snelling Avenue. That is exactly 93 degrees from Greenwich, England, but it's 90 degrees, exactly a quarter turn on the earth from Roslyn Chapel.
Oh, really?
And where those two lines intersect, Snelling and Roselawn, you know what that little town is called? It looks like it's just stuck right in there.
Dan Brown Avenue.
Roseville.
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 That
I
is
mean,
crazy.
You can't make it up. We live in a Templar town. I have to tell you that.
That's crazy.
But navigation was obviously it was very important to them, and they knew how to do it. And this notion they couldn't figure out latitude, just like you said before, just stop already. This map proves that they understood that. There's some other interesting things on this map. One of the things it says is la 10 in French. Look that up, put it in your Google Translator. It says the goddess. To the right of that, underneath the hooked X in the 45-degree latitude, it says the 24th of June. What is the 24th of June? Why is that important to the Templars? Do you know why?
No.
Because it's John the Baptist Day.
Oh, yes.
Did you know that all of our lodges in Freemasonry are dedicated to the Holy Saint John?
And
now, why do you think that is? And why is that name on that document? And why isn't Jesus' name on there? I thought it was all about Jesus.
And
do you know the answer to that?
No.
You should. You see it in just about every single Catholic church that anyone ever goes into, and they don't even realize what they're looking at.
Okay, I'm picturing
What is the
it.
relationship of John the Baptist and Jesus?
Well, he baptized Jesus.
Baptized?
Dunked
or
him.
Initiated.
Ah, good point. Good point. He didn't just dunk him. No, he brought him in. Right.
He was initiated into the ancient mysteries.
Right.
And then he died, right? He was beheaded. And then what happened to the new master?
Keep going. I'm listening. You know, the audience right
what
now is on.
What happened to Jesus? What's the story?
Well,
he died, right?
Well, actually, he was King Arthur, but that's a whole nother.
Well, we digress, but just stay with the story for a sec.
Right.
So he dies,
right.
And then who's initiated after him?
Mary.
And John the Evangelist.
Right.
So there's a tradition that was passed on through these guys. But at the head of the table, everybody wants to put Jesus. But in Freemasonry, there's a different guy at the head of the table.
And that is?
JB.
Now, if that, and there's some...
And the evidence for that is all around us. You just don't see it. I'll as time goes on, I'll share where that evidence is, but it's in this document. It's on that map. It's right there. The 24th of June is John the Baptist Day.
Now, what about, and I just got a couple of texts about this too as well, where we have some of the parts of history saying that, you know, Mary left, went to the south of France.
Wait. Which Mary?
Jesus' wife.
The Magdalene.
Yes. She leaves.
Okay.
She goes. She's pregnant. Maybe she's even got a couple of more kids with her. She shows up in the south of France, takes the bloodline into the south of France. Of course, we have all of the French connections here. Oh, man, that was a bad metaphor. The French connections.
Well, no, it was a good movie title, but it's a good line.
It's a good
doesn't mean
line.
it's spoiled.
And Paris and the Knights Templar, all of this in the future, of course. This document talking about what's going on there, the references back to Paris with this map and the Prime Meridian, everything comes into focus here. I mean, it's almost becoming factual history.
Well, it is factual history. It's just the acceptance part that's taken a little bit of time.
Right.
I mean, this is what happened. I tell you what, I've spent a lot of time with Native Americans, and one of the things I've heard them say is that, we have all these discussions about, where did man start from? Was it in Africa with, Lucy and they migrated to other parts of the world? That's sort of the accepted theory today. But the natives say that humans started here in North America and then spread around the world and came back.
Man, your house is going to get struck by lightning before the break.
I'm telling you what they told me. I don't know if it's true.
Now,
this is what they believe, though.
Now, we're going to take a break right here. I've got this question. I just want to hit this really quick before we go to the break. What do you think the Holy Grail is?
Well, I guess I would sum it up by saying 2 words: know thyself.
Okay.
It's you finding that comfortable, that karma, that it's you. It's you.
As opposed to a physical, the golden cup. Right.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, and but I mean, I think the Grail means different things to different people. Some people think it's an object. Some people think it's a concept. Some people think it's, achieving, as Bill Murray said, total consciousness.
Yeah. Let's take a break here, Scott.
I'm serious about that.
I'm serious too. Achieving total consciousness. And now, when we come back, Scott went to the mountaintop. We're going to get that part of the story next. This is Fade to Black. Stay with us.
Hi everybody, this is Rob Halford, the Metal Guard on JimmyChurchRadio.com.
This is KGRA Digital Broadcasting Station. Salt Lake City, Utah. Van Buren, Arkansas.
Okay, nurse, let's get this man to the ER stat.
Right away, doctor.
We see this every day. Heart attack or angina pain due to blocked and clogged arteries. Chelation can remove obstructions or blockages from arteries and help avoid painful and expensive surgery. Now there's Angioprim. It's a liquid oral chelation product that you take with juice. You start to feel the results fast. Angioprim increases blood flow all over the body, and that means more energy and strength to take on the day with less aches and pains. 60 years of research has gone into chelation, and Angioprim is the result. A safe and easy way to unblock your veins and arteries from buildup that slow circulation.
Paging Dr. Jones. Please report to the emergency room right away.
Log on now for a special radio offer from Angioprim. That's angioprim.com/radio. ANGIOPRIM. Angioprim.com/radio or call 877-882-7221. That's 877-882-7221.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7 with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on the smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
Your contact for current news and trending topics. KGRARadio.com.
Do you worry a lot? If you're forgetful, nervous, moody, or overwhelmed, chances are you're not protecting yourself from the ravaging effects of stress and anxiety. No matter the cause, ongoing stress and elevated levels of the stress hormone cortisol can rob your memory, your health, your quality of life, and your future. Now you can combat the effects of stress and anxiety while improving your memory and recall at the same time with the dietary supplement Calm and Clever. Studies show that the ingredients in Calm and Clever reduce cortisol by as much as 30% in as little as 1 to 2 weeks and increase your ability to recall facts, names, and numbers in 4 to 12 weeks. Calm and Clever was created by scientist Kurt Hendricks, a principal investigator in 2 NIH-funded studies on Alzheimer's disease. Try Calm and Clever for 2 months. You'll feel the difference. Call 1-800-758-8746 or go to calmandclever.com.
Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi available, you can still listen to every minute of Fade to Black by just calling 605-562-4482. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan and no extra cost if you have unlimited minutes. Just call 605-562-4482. You can listen to me, Jimmy Church, on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Go Beckley Tappy.
You want to know a secret? I love ponies. I really love ponies. I'm serious. I couldn't stay sane without ponies to brush.
Why Fade to Black? Because you never got that pony, damn it.
This is Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
Welcome back, Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Follow me on Twitter at JChurchRadio. You can follow Scott Wolter at The Real Scott Wolter on Twitter. His links are up there in the feed right now. And, of course, his website are the Hooked X and Scott Wolter Blogspot. And those links also are over on jimmychurchradio.com. You can just click and go straight there. Great stuff. Scott, now... this chapter in the book, the C document, everybody is going to go and get the book now, and that's fine, and read this chapter. But there are some things that are disclosed in the chapter that originally I was kind of uncomfortable with because there's locations and names. But they're going to go get the book, so I guess we're free and clear to go there, right?
Yeah. I'm going to leave out some of the names right now because I don't, I think... They're private people and they don't want to be bothered and they're not gonna tell you anything anyway. But this was something we did with a small group of people, and my son was involved, and we were taken up there by somebody who had been on the mountain many times, but he's an older guy now and he just can't get around like he used to, and there were some things that he was looking for. And
where is the mountain?
It is in the Catskill Mountains, and I've already given a big clue as to where it is. I mean, we talk about it in the book, but it's on the tallest mountain in the Catskills, and but it's I'll tell you what, it's rugged. It's the mountains there are steep. The rock is well-bedded sandstones it's split off, and it's actually quite dangerous. And that particular area gets hit with lightning all the time, and storms come up just out of the blue. It's almost like the natives said it was haunted, and I can tell you when we went up there, it was a perfect day, and of course, right when we got to a particularly steep and dangerous area, it started to rain, and everything was slippery, of course. And I mean, it's treacherous, and I don't think that's an accident. I think that was part of why it was selected. But he knew where to go, and there were carvings on rocks that told us where we were that date back to the 12th century. One of the symbols is gone. The rock has just spalled away. It's gone. So, but it's an outcrop that pops up sort of out of the steep slope, and we're talking about a 40 to 45 degree angle. I mean, this is like angle of repose. It's steep, but it's in this particular area. It's relatively flat. There's a lot of vegetation. But there's outcrops of rock that just sort of pop out, and that's where they carve these symbols.
Now, what language are the symbols in?
Theban.
Come on, seriously?
No. They're pictured in the book.
I'm looking at the pictures, and I see that they're Theban. I just wanted to mess with you, but I mean, somebody's going to call BS on this. That it is absolutely.
Well, call BS. What do you want me to do? Look at the pictures.
Right.
I mean, I just, you know what? I'm sick of people calling BS. You know what? If you don't believe it, go prove it wrong.
Right.
I was on that mountain. We found these symbols. We laid out the triangulation based upon the document, and we dug in a spot, and we found a carved stone. It's in the book. Look it up. You're calling bullshit?
Right,
Pictures are there.
Right.
I mean, come
crazy.
on. I don't mean to go off on you, Jimmy, but I hear this crap all the time.
I know.
I'm sick of it.
Yeah,
it's
I know.
easy for critics to say, "Oh, that's bullshit." Really? Well, yeah. Well, then you get out of your, get off your duff, and you go do some research and prove it wrong.
Right.
Good luck.
Now,
oh, God, it makes me angry.
Well, and you're a rock guy, and you know how things are carved and sediment and deposits and the possible aging. When your eyes, I'm looking at the photographs here. So, of all things, when you're following a map and you guys are on this treasure hunt, and then you find these outcrops with carved symbols on it that are clearly Theban. Now, as you looked at them, how old do you think these are? Are we looking at 10th, 11th, 12th century carvings on a mountaintop in the Catskills that are Theban?
Well, the honest answer is I don't know, but they absolutely could be. One thing I can tell you, they aren't recent carvings, but this age dating of man-made surfaces carved in rock is very difficult.
Right.
And in most cases, I'll tell you right now, I can't tell you the age. We got very lucky with things like the runestone and some of the other there have been some others that we were able to do some good work on, like the Bat Creek Stone, the Tucson lead artifacts, but we have to get lucky. We have to have a lot of things go our way. In the case of the runestone, we had all kinds of minerals. It was a complicated geologic rock type, but we had lots of minerals to choose from. In other cases, we have certain circumstances that allow us to do logic exercises and sometimes dating exercises. Each situation, every carving, every artifact is different. You have to take them each on a case-by-case basis. In this particular case, because it's a quartz sandstone, primarily, it doesn't. The minerals don't break down chemically. They will physically weather, and you will also get secondary deposits that will develop on the surface and form in between the grains inside the rock. And so there's other ways we can look at it, and I can tell you that it's old, but how old exactly, I can't tell you. But
what were you?
That the document led us to these places and told us what to do. I mean, in my mind, that corroborates the age of the carvings. That tells us that they have to be almost 1,000 years old.
What were you looking for, and what did you find as you you found the symbols on the outcrops? But what else? What were you looking for?
Well, there were things that I can tell you this: the things we were looking for, we did not find, and the thing we did find, we were not looking for. And actually, what we found is absolutely incredible. And when you look at the book, you'll see it's a carved stone that has, guess what, Roman numbers on it, in addition to symbols on the back side. But on one side, there's a Latin phrase that says "in camera." In camera, they still use that word today in the legal profession. When the lawyers and the judge have a private conference, they call it in camera, in chamber, in secret. We're having a secret meeting. So something that's in camera can mean it's a secret. And above that are Roman numbers, 2 sets of Roman numbers. And they look to us to have been laid out like a latitude and a longitude in degrees and minutes. And, of course, when we found the stone, what's the first thing you want to do? Jump on Google Earth, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Plot the coordinates. That's exactly what we did. And it put us in the middle of the woods up in Canada, in the middle of nowhere. And we're like, well, God, duh. What was our problem? Tell me what our problem was.
Well, the numbers are arbitrary. I mean, in today's, right? They wouldn't match up with today's.
The wrong prime meridian.
That's right.
So when we recalculated it to Paris, bingo. And here's what was interesting, and the next chapter in the book after the C document is called Montreal, because the latitude and longitude took us exactly to Old Montreal, which has a very interesting history. In ancient times, in other words, prior to contact, it was an ancient native trading site where natives, even warring native tribes, would come to this area, and it was a neutral place. It was like, the United Nations meeting spot. It didn't matter if you were enemies. You would send your people there, and they would trade, right? There was no fighting. We would just trade. Because you know what? Sometimes the guy that you don't like has got something you want, and you got something he wants. Even though you hate his guts, you still want to make a deal with him, right? So this was where they could do that. What was interesting is back in 1609, a group of Sulpician monks from France. Have you ever been to Saint Sulpice?
No, I have not.
Saint Sulpice is just down the street from Notre Dame. Saint Sulpice is where they have an obelisk inside the church, and they have a line of gold that goes across the altar of that church, and it goes up this obelisk, and there's a gold dome at the top. You know why that's in there? Because there's a small hole inside of one of the stained glass windows in the south part of the church where the sun will go across, and that light on the solstice will follow that line and go right up that, on the winter solstice when the sun is at its lowest point, will go up that gold line to that dome and illuminate it and mark the solstice. Science, astronomy, geometry. Those monks established a church at that site. They went beyond the protection of the French army that was moving into that area of Canada at that time, and they said, "No, we're good, we got it." And they went to this place and established their church that's now called Bon-Secours Church. So we went up there to Canada, and about 2 blocks away from Bon-Secours is a basilica dedicated to Notre Dame, the Notre Dame Basilica. This is in Montreal. And when you walk into the church, the first thing you see when you go inside the doors and you look to the left is this giant 10-foot tall painting that's in that book of Mary and child. And I'm not going to tell you about the symbolism. I want people to do the research themselves, and you will learn what the colors are of Mary Magdalene. And once you know what the colors are, who she is, because the colors will tell you, go back and look at Renaissance-era art. In fact, go back and look at the artwork of some of the most famous artists, European artists in history, after 1307. What was significant about their artwork after 1307? Because the Templars were put down, and the secret was suppressed. And so those who were initiated, some people say baptized, with ancient secret knowledge, preserve that in artwork and sculpture, and only those with the eyes to see knew what they were looking at, the ones who had been initiated. So look at that painting and tell me what you see. And you said yourself that there's a legend about Mary disappearing into France, that she was pregnant with a daughter. Mm-hmm. Her name was Sarah. Mm-hmm. Look at that painting in that church, in that basilica dedicated to Notre Dame. Okay? And Our Lady, to the goddess, to the Magdalene, who is just another representation of the goddess. And then go around that church and look at the stained glass work. You'll see women. And the other thing that you'll see in this church you won't see anywhere else is you will see, you know what the tetragrammaton is? The delta with the Hebrew letters Yod-He, Vav-He, the immutable name of Creator. Only in this church you will see the Tetragrammaton, except the letters are He Vav He, that spell Eve, the goddess.
This stone that you found up on
told us to go there.
Yeah, I'm looking at it here. It's clearly, it is what it is. I mean, there's no mistaking what's on the stone. Why isn't this, and I'm not kidding about this, Scott, I'm not making light of this. Why isn't this the most famous artifact on the planet?
You tell me.
It just doesn't make sense. I mean,
because they don't believe it, they're not going to believe that this happened. Nobody's going to believe it. They can say, "Oh well, it's out of context." No, it's not. We have 5 witnesses that saw it. We could take you to the spot. I wrote all about this. I tell the rest of the story in my new book, which won't be published until we're ready to publish it. But there's a lot more to this story that I can't tell you yet. But I can tell you what I've told you. And that is incredible, and yes, it did happen. Now, if you look at the picture of that stone, you can't really see it in the picture that I published in the book, but that first X...
Right, I'm looking at it.
With the 3 X's in a row.
Yep.
The lower right leg, there's actually another little leg that goes down into the left. You can barely see it in that photo.
Right.
Okay, now go to the lower line where you see the longitude.
Yep.
And you see the 3 ones at the end, and the last one looks like an L.
Right.
You see that?
Yep.
That number is 8. The Roman numeral 1 doesn't have an L on it. What that is like a watermark that tells the initiated that this is legitimate, because you have a bar on the first X in the first number of the first number.
Right.
And then you have one in the last. It's called an alpha omega.
Oh, I got you. I got you. The LL. Right. Bookends.
Yes. It's a watermark. It's a certificate. It's basically the carver saying this is legit. This is us. It's telling the initiated this is legit. Because if they aren't there, then the person that's part of that initiated group is going to say, "Okay, my guy didn't do this."
Now,
follow me?
Yeah. Why is in camera in English?
It's not. It's in Latin.
So in camera.
That in camera. It doesn't mean you're in a camera.
No. I'm saying you can read it though. It says in camera.
Well, yeah, you can read Latin. Sometimes the words you can read. That word camera isn't camera like we think of a camera where you take pictures.
No, I get it. But my point is, who would know that unless it is authentic? I mean, I wouldn't know, right? I would.
Well, some people will say, "Oh, a forger was trying to fool you by using an old Latin phrase."
Right.
Oh, yeah, prove it.
Right.
You tell me that a forger knew about these, knew this. He knew that there was an ancient site that was used by natives that the Templars probably visited and traded with natives centuries before. The Sulpicians, who inherited the traditions and the secrets of the Cistercians, who went in decline, after the Templars were put down. And of course, King Henry VIII did the final coup de grace when he raided all the Cistercian monasteries of the British Isles and took all their wealth, but that's another story. But all the secrets in those traditions were passed on to the Sulpicians, and they were the ones that came at the time of contact and established, Notre Dame Cathedral and the Sulpician Seminary there. I've been through the Sulpician Seminary, and my God, the symbolism, the story of Jesus and Mary and John the Baptist, all the true story of them, it's all through there. If you know what to look for, you'll see it. It's amazing. I talk about a lot of it in the book. It's incredible. Montreal.
Was there any evidence of
Royal?
Was there any evidence up there of anything built? Was somebody living there? What was the purpose of this mountaintop?
I can neither confirm nor deny.
So you did see something.
Well, there's certain things I can't talk about, Jim. I would have put it in the book if I could. I will talk about it. I'm sorry to be such a jerk, but
Was it like the Parthenon? I mean, what did you see?
Well, it's you're not going to walk up there and see something like Stonehenge or Newgrange, but there's a reason that this was the temple of the goddess. That's what they called it, and the people that protected that place were a very special group of natives that in the 12th century spoke the Celtic language. Remember, the Celts, they inherited the Druid tradition, which basically venerated nature, right?
So,
who
lived?
Go ahead.
Okay, I'm picturing you going up there, and you're finding some of the symbols. Some of the stuff is carved, and you found there. And I'm picturing evidence of something, of civilization, of obvious evidence that somebody was there and spent some time there, and there was intention. I'm just wondering what it was and what you were seeing. So you did see evidence of something going on up there that predated Columbus by 300 years.
Yep.
Man, you're giving me the big yep. You know I'm not going to stop.
Sorry, I'm sorry, but I can't. I mean, I just can't. I can't say much. I can't say any more than that because I said I wouldn't, but I will. I will. Hey, I've given you some good stuff today. Come on.
You always do. So now,
I even said that. I even said, my God, the Pope has been making me look pretty good, and he has. But you know, you know what? I love the Pope, and you know, remember the prophecy I was telling you about? Why would he be the last Pope?
Right. And
think about that.
Well, and so do you think that you are able to pull all of this together, not only with what's on top of the mountain, but everything else, that this will be strong enough for everybody to stop and take notice, and for once and for all that we can start to discuss this as a reality?
Let me just say this, Jim. I haven't told you 5% of this story. I haven't told you even 2%. This story is so overwhelming. There is so much evidence. There's a lot more work to do. We are just getting started. But I can tell you everything is going very well. And once it all comes out, it'll be game, set, match. Guaranteed.
We didn't. We went past one of the things I wanted to ask you about, the brass seal that unlocks. Yeah. We didn't even talk about that. That must have been just absolutely unbelievable to check out.
Yeah.
And plus, what it actually was. Tell the audience about this brass seal.
Well, that was how I first was introduced to this story, and basically, you know, as I kind of alluded to, these guys that had been involved in certain operations during the Vietnam War era, when they got out of, you know, their commitments, you know, they're young guys and they had been doing some, you know, pretty crazy stuff. I mean, you can imagine what some of those old veterans had been through, and you know, during the Vietnam War, and people that were working in other organizations that we don't always know about in this country and in other countries. You know, there's some daredevil guys that did some crazy stuff, and after they got out, they went scuba diving and they discovered some old decorative bulbs, and one of the guys gave one to his buddy who was married and had a young boy and thought his wife would like it. He wasn't married, the guy that found it. And so he gave it to the guy, and about a year later, the guy's 5-year-old son was carrying this thing around, and he dropped it, and it broke, and there was something inside of it. And this thing that they had found underwater they thought was just a pretty decorative bulb, turned out contained this brass seal. And this brass seal was actually a navigation device, and it had carvings on the outside. We talked about the pentagram earlier. It had a pentagram like design on the back with symbols on it that had to do with astronomy and the planets, and it's a navigation device. But it also had some Theban text on it. And it turned out that the Theban told them how to open it. And they just had to push the pin, and it unlocked it, and inside was this pin. There was a small scroll. There were some other metal pieces. And that is what started this journey of the guy who eventually would learn about this document. That dive trip took place in 1968, and it was 1971 when he eventually was led through a series of incredible events to learn about this document and then go to Italy to view it and have an opportunity to buy it. So it's just incredible. But I was introduced to this story when the guy who had it, who originally found it, got it back from his buddy, and he showed it to me at a conference back in 2006. And that's how I got involved. And you see the pictures of it in the book, and this is what started the journey for me. And I'll tell you what, it's still unfolding. The information is still coming to me to this day. In fact, just the other day, I saw another page from the Cremona Document I had never seen.
I'm looking
and
at...
all I can tell you is when this story all comes out, your heads will explode.
I can't wait for it. And where can everybody get the book, Scott?
Well, you know what? You can go on Amazon. You can buy it right away. But if you want a signed copy from me, I sign all copies of my book, and Janet too. Her book is on there. But go to my website, which is www.hookedx.com, HOOKEDX.com. Just hookedx.com. And I started this whole journey with the Kensington Rune Stone back in 2000. And I wrote the book, Compelling New Evidence, the Kensington Rune Stone, Compelling New Evidence, co-authored with Dick Nielsen, who passed away last year. Then I wrote the Hooked X in 2009, and then Akhenaten to the Founding Fathers in 2013. And then a little over a year and a half ago, Janet, along with our good friend and amazing Templar researcher, Alan Butler, who lives in England, she wrote a book with him called America, Nation of the Goddess. And really, you know what? It's so true that the Templars and the Native Americans, the reason they had this strong bond, this strategic alliance that lasted for many centuries, the core of that relationship was based in a fundamental ideology that they shared, which was a reverence of the Holy Mother, the goddess in the heavens, a reverence of the planet Venus, the moon, and Mother Earth, the triple goddess. And that was passed on to the Masonic Brotherhood. But in the last 250 years, because of the influence and the infiltration of the Roman Catholic Church and other religions, that ancient faith and that ideology has been blurred. The symbolism is all through our rituals. It's everywhere. But 99% of the guys that took the vows that I did don't see it. But I'm telling you, it's still there. The reverence for my God, the symbolism is all over our flag. 50 times.
Yeah, it is.
That's the goddess symbol. Hey, think about this. Every time the Dallas Cowboys pray, or every time they play, they're on their helmets. It's the goddess. The Dallas Goddess is what they should be called. Do you think anybody in that franchise understands a thing about that?
You are truly getting hit by lightning this evening.
I'm telling you.
And Scott,
it's amazing.
What is fascinating to me is why suppress this knowledge? What is gained out of that? Because eventually, especially today,
have you been paying attention the last 7 months?
Well, but hear me out. the availability of totally. You're absolutely right.
I'm picking on you, man. I know I can make fun of you because you can handle it, but you know what I'm saying.
But the information, the knowledge is going to we have access to information and technology and the ability to go and research. The truth is going to come out.
It will.
Why suppress it? Why continue to suppress it? I mean, what do they gain
power,
now?
Control. It all goes back to the same thing. And look, the oldest strategy in the book to conquer is to demonize a group of people that are in your way, whether it's Native Americans, whether it's Jewish people during their time, Christians, Muslims, women, you name it, right? What do? You label them something that is subhuman, right? Which justifies persecution. It gives you an excuse to kill them because they're these horrible people, so it doesn't matter if you kill them. Is that not the oldest strategy in humanity?
Yep.
Nothing's changed. It's
right.
happening today. And it's happening now at a pace that I just never thought I would ever see. I'm stunned. I can't believe it. And, the suppression, the way women are treated in certain parts of the world, are you kidding me? We should, as guys, we should be venerating the feminine. And you know why the whole goddess ideology is this ancient faith that dates back thousands of years? Do you know why that is?
Why?
Because women are the life givers. Last I checked, they still are. And they need us, for sure. That whole concept of dualism, the idea of balance, that has to be in play. And so you have to find that balance. But make no mistake, at the end of the day, you go back in history, the ladies are in charge. Look at most Native American cultures, pretty much all of them are matriarchal.
Well, I know how my house is run. That's for sure.
You know that old phrase, brother. Happy wife, happy life, right?
Scott.
If you haven't learned that lesson, you better.
Scott, thank you so much, man. And so what's next? Obviously, you've got a new series in the works. You just don't know exactly what network, but that's in play.
We let's put it this way: we have enough content from a television standpoint to run for seriously 10 years.
Right.
I mean, I hate to pick on Oak Island, but if they can stretch 4 seasons, maybe 5 out of that, my God, we'll go for 100 years. I mean,
wow.
I got nothing against the brothers; they're doing a good job. I'm sure they, but come on, I mean.
We did a whole show tonight.
And you know what? We're going to do it one way or another, whether it's with a network or we privately fund it. We will do it, but we will only do it if it's told the right way and the honest way and the truthful way, because it's important that this comes out. And probably now more than ever, the world needs for this truth to come out and for us to look. You know that old phrase, you have to understand where you've already been before you can go forward into the future intelligently. Those who do not learn from the past are destined to repeat it. It happens all the time, and we have to start smartening up, whether it's dealing with our climate, dealing with our history, dealing with people that we don't know, making it right with the natives, with other people that have been persecuted. Look, we're all in this together. It's basic stuff. This isn't rocket science. This is straightforward stuff. But it is important that people know where we've been and learn from the past and embrace the past so we can straighten this thing out that's a little off kilter now. I choose to be optimistic. I think we will figure it out, but it starts by bringing forward the facts.
Just thank you for everything that you do, and I'm serious about that. And everything will work itself out, but I'm just more surprised that we did an entire show and didn't mention Oak Island once. And so for that,
yeah, but I did. I brought it up. But hey, you know what? More power to them. But let's face it. Cable is struggling right now, and young people are getting their content in different ways. People are screaming for good content. They want the content. How it's delivered is changing. And so, the networks and the people that make the content and deliver it have to be smart about it, because the young people are the future. They're the ones that are going to, take the reins from us old farts and carry the torch into the future, and we need to educate them. I'll tell you what, these young people today are smarter than we were when we were kids. That old argument the old folks used to make, it wasn't like in my day. Well, you know what? The kids are pretty smart these days, and so we need to teach them. We need to coach them.
I'm confident. I'm confident with the generation below us, man.
I am too.
I am so confident. I was walking through. Check this out. I'm walking through the house, and I go through the family room, and one of my daughters, Deanna, she's sitting on the couch, and she's watching something on her cell phone, and I could hear it's a TV show of some kind, and I said, "What are you doing?" She goes, "Oh, I'm watching blah 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 blah," and I said, "There's a large screen TV right there. Why aren't you?" "No, I'd rather watch it on my phone." And I was kids
why?
These days.
Because Billy might drop a text as she's watching, and she'll put it on pause, and she'll have a little conversation, and then she'll start it up, and she'll re-rate where she left off.
I just shook my head, and I walked away, and I'm thinking, man, I am so old.
I know.
I just don't get
but
it.
You know what? I get my news on my phone. I'm not watching. I mean, I'll sit down and watch the news with, Janet, almost every night. But all during the day, I'm checking Twitter. I'm checking the news feeds, and I'm hip to what's going on. Look, if I want to communicate with my kids, where do I go? I go to my phone. I call them or I text them. I say, "What are you doing? You're not talking to me. Call me." It's the way it is.
You think you're hip, so just keep thinking that, Scott.
I know, I'm a dinosaur. Shut up.
All right, my friend, thank you so much. Give my best to Janet.
Thank you, Jimmy. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate this. All kidding aside, I really appreciate the opportunity to be on your show. You've got a great thing going, and the opportunity is wonderful. So thank you, and let's do it again soon.
You got it, Scott, and behave and be well, and I'll give you a call tomorrow. Thank you so much.
Hey, sounds good. Call me anytime.
You got it. Scott Wolter, everybody, thehookedx.com, and the Akhenaten book, it's right there, but Chapter 8, this C document, it is unbelievable. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. This is Fade to Black. I'll open up the phone lines and go through some other stuff right after this short break. Stay with us.
Here, and you are listening to my boy Jimmy Church on JimmyChurchRadio.com.
Despite popular opinion, reading a book will not make you smarter, but listening to Jimmy Church will.
So you went to dinner last night and you had your favorite pasta. Ugh. Or maybe you had a heavy spicy meal and it left you. Ugh. Get the tea.com. Maybe you mowed down a huge steak and your plumbing is all plugged. Ugh. Get the tea.com. Our super strength tea will take care of your occasional. Ugh. It's all organic and non-GMO. Get rid of ugh. We have so many great supplements, but our super tea is number one. GetTheT.com. That's GetTheT.com.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7 with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
When you take the beans from Central America with dashes of Indonesian and African mixed in and then roast it to the dark side of Fade to Black, you create the ultimate brew of fringe. Introducing the Fade to Black blend from River Moon Coffee. Yes, River Moon's darkest customized roast was created for the love of Fade to Black. The alchemy of masterful roasting and smoking the beans is in every sip of this full-bodied, dark Java. I need my coffee dark, deep, with distinct bittersweet chocolate highlights, just like the bunker. Leaning further into the darkness of the roast is Fade to Black Blend from River Moon Coffee. Just click on the banner at jimmychurchradio.com and use the promo code F2BBLEND for 15% off of your order today. Go Beckley Teppy.
I'm Matt Ray with America's First News. We all know if you're planning a trip, you should shop and compare, right? But why endlessly search the web when you don't have to? Flight Services helps you find the lowest possible airfare. Talk directly to a travel pro right now for the best deals available. Their travel pros have additional discounts not found on websites, and Flight Services provides 24-hour customer service. Call toll-free 844-845-9944. That's 844-845-9944.
What's up, Fadernauts? Studio Dome loves Fade to Black and the F2B audience so much that they have put together the ultimate stereo Bluetooth system. They've done it just for you. Man, check this out. The Studio Dome SBB2 stereo system is here. It's featuring two Studio Boombox 2 SBB2 wireless Bluetooth speakers, packed in its own custom hardshell case. This Studio Dome system features the very latest in stereo Bluetooth technology. The two full-range boomboxes are in true wireless stereo. You've got to hear this. It's amazing. It's just $129, and use the promo code JCRTWS, and you'll also get free shipping. It's simple. Just go to jimmychurchradio.com, click on the Studio Dome banner. Go Beckley Teppy.
Erica, Brittany, Gabby, and you're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com.
It's not a lifestyle we chose. We were born this way. KGRARadio.com.
This is KJCR at JimmyChurchRadio.com.
Welcome back. Fade to Black. Opening up the phone lines, 323-825-5045, 323-275-9695. Thank you to Scott Wolter. Absolutely fascinating conversation. And a little wrap-up on my side as I wait for the phone calls to come in as we go through the delay, is this. We don't know much. And it takes people like Scott in our community to bring this information forward, to go out and find it, to be intelligent enough to put the clues together and to figure it out and bring that information forward. The main point that I always want to drive home is this, and it's a simple one. None of us were there. And I know that sounds elemental, very simple, but none of us were there. And when you back up, you back up 200 years and start to go beyond that and get going back. And once you get behind Gutenberg and you're even behind that, the information and the way that stuff was shared and documented and saved and preserved and was accurate, it's thin. It's thin. And the obvious thing is none of us were there. So what are we forced into today? It's very simple, isn't it? We are taught from somebody else's information. And that has been turned into fact when, to be honest, we don't know. We just don't. It's been accepted as fact. You hear the story over and over again. You read it over and over again. Based on what? Based on what? When we go backwards in time, and the further back we go, the only people that could read and write were probably religious. Probably. Not all, but probably. You can go into the Greek side of things and go into the Roman side of things, and I understand that. But certainly through, this is what's most important here, when you go through the Dark Ages, nobody could read or write. Nobody but the monks, or and I'm being serious here. So that's the documentation that has been preserved for today and for history. When we go to those crazy periods, 1000 AD, 1100, 1200, 1300, right? The 11th, 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th centuries, very important times for history, but we don't know the facts. We truly don't. Who are the courageous ones that went and wrote and preserved things for us? That information is suppressed. It is completely. It changes history. It changes what we're taught. It changes so many different aspects. One, who does this country, the United States, actually belong to? And if some of this stuff gets picked apart, I am serious. I brought this up to Scott many years ago, but I said, I really mean this. What if there were land claims here in the United States that suddenly it's not the United States of America, it's the United States of pick a country, Denmark, the Netherlands, right? Iceland. And this is, I am serious about this. It changes history. And I don't know, when I talk about dating, and I talk about dating here on the show all the time, when we talk about dating and we jump back at zero, if we go to year zero and before, there is no accurate count. There is nothing there. It is guesswork. Now we are into opinion, and there isn't a historian. There is anybody with a degree, somebody that wants to say that they are an archaeologist, an Egyptologist, that there's some professional historian that can sit here and tell me that something at 1000 BC or 2000 BC, 3000 BC is fact and give me a date. They can't do it. I will tell them that they are crazy. And I don't care how educated they are. It's very simple. There is nothing there. There are no calendars. There is no accurate anything. And so when somebody like Scott is collecting this information and putting it together, I have to stop and take notice. I firmly believe this. No matter what theory, no matter what fact that I have been accustomed to, and I start to trust myself. Believe is the wrong word, but trust. And I go and I look and I feel pretty good. And I research and I read and I feel pretty good about something. And somebody comes at me and says, well, I've got this. And if it changes my paradigm, my knowledge base, my library, my personal collection of information inside of my head that I feel pretty confident about. And if it comes at me and changes the way that I look at things, I'm cool with it. I am truly cool with it. Because nobody knows. Nobody knows. And so let's take it. Let's take a look at it. Let's try to figure this out. Let's put this together and see what comes out of it. If it changes what I believe, if it changes what I think, I'm okay with it. Why? Because I just got a little bit smarter. And that's how we all look at things. And that's Scott's piece to this puzzle. We just get a little bit smarter. There are reasons why this information has to be suppressed for them. And I get that. But they can't keep it hidden forever. And eventually it's going to blow open. And it's going to blow open in a bad way. And those out there where their very belief systems, and it could be religious, it could not be religious, it could be something else. But it will change their worldview. And it's going to happen. So I just ask everybody, why not just discuss this and get it out there. That's why Scott is so important. Let's go to the phones. Hi, you're live on Fade to Black. Who's calling?
Damien from Hamilton.
Hey, Damien from Hamilton. How are you?
I'm doing well, Jimmy. Great show again, like always. I know I just been calling the last couple of days.
That's fine,
and
man.
Just, and it's all for the fact that we're all gonna be. How should I say this? You can feel like something big is coming. It's gonna be a big change, and I've been getting the same feelings. I'm pretty sure you know what I'm talking about because those who are awake. It's almost like the video you shared with Jim Carrey. That was crazy. I was like, wow, this guy is not crazy. He's just awake. He's awake and he knows what we are talking about. Fate or not, everybody out there, Jimmy, and it's not gonna change. We're not gonna let this overcome us. This is a positive thing. There will be a little bit of a turmoil in the world with some of the individuals that are not completely open to this, but at the other end, we'll be okay, Jimmy. And that's what comes to mind.
And we in our community, we want this knowledge. We want to figure this out. We want to find something unbelievable and start to put these pieces together. We want this and we invite this. You're absolutely right. But let me tell you, wouldn't it be crazy, and I'm just speaking hypothetically here, but wouldn't it be crazy if in the middle of this country, in the middle of Kansas or Tulsa, just pick some crazy city, and in the Midwest, somebody is building a house and they bring in some bulldozers and they're leveling out the land, and suddenly somebody falls through a hole and they're standing in the middle of some crazy Egyptian temple. Right? Some crazy 10,000-year-old thing that just wasn't supposed to exist. What if, you know what? And that possibility is real. And I'm telling you, the more that every day that goes by, we are one day closer to something absolutely mind-boggling is going to blow up. And then everything changes.
Yes, Jimmy. You're absolutely right. It's almost like you're reading my thoughts. I'm picturing all this in my head, and I don't know where it's coming from, Jim. And I'm not trying to just blow smoke or just talk crazy stuff. It's just stuff that comes to my head, and I understand what you're saying. And there is going to be changes like that. And humanity has been on this earth for way longer than we are led to believe. And I'm pretty sure that you and all the Federals know that.
Yes, and there are a couple of things that are so painfully obvious that get ignored. One of them, the Lascaux paintings in France, 16,000 years old, brilliantly. I mean, the finest artwork on planet Earth. That wasn't supposed to exist. Right? Those are cave paintings. Wasn't supposed to exist. Göbekli Tepe was not supposed to exist. Everything was supposed to. It's there. It's there. It's real. And when we look at history says Mesopotamia, ancient Egypt, 3000 BC, that's where everything started. And when somebody wants me to accept the fact that whether it's Egypt or whether it's Mesopotamia, they're close enough you can almost call it the same thing. But that mathematics, schools, artworks, roads, architecture, engineering, farming, everything was just created overnight in one day, that these civilizations were upright, walking, correct civilizations, that they didn't have anything before that. And they want us to believe that, and we know that is just insanity now. But then 7,000 years before that, Göbekli Tepe was there. 7,000 years. 7,000 years, man. 7,000.
Yeah, exactly. And then they're trying to bring all these individuals that, have all these degrees supposedly in history, and they try to explain everything away, and they just make up stuff because they don't know what.
They don't know. They do not know.
They don't think about this stuff.
You're 100% correct.
Yes, and like Laura Eisenhower last night, she's really tuned in. A lot of people are woken up to this stuff, and I know it sounds crazy to some of the individuals out there that might not really know about what we're talking about, but I know you know. I know a lot of us are waking up, Jimmy, and we are gonna come out of this. It's just something that I'm getting. We are gonna come out of this, Jimmy, and we're all gonna unite together. That's how we were supposed to be, and how we were before. Whoever it is that took over this planet, I guess,
Yep. Yeah, hey, Damien, thank you so much, man, and we'll see you tomorrow night right here on Fader Tonight. Thank you so much.
Hey, exactly. I'll be there. I'll be listening, and shout out to all the Fader Nuts, and we just stay strong and stay together, think positive thoughts, and thank you, Rita, and you have a good night, Jimmy.
You too, Damien. Thank you so much. We'll see you tomorrow night on the show. And it is so true. He brings up the best point, the one thing that we can drive home. We get it. We do, right? The rest of the world, they don't get it because they don't need to get it. They don't have to get it. That's what they think, right? That they're just moving on in life and everything is just copacetic and it's what they've been taught in school or not taught in school and they're cool with that things just don't matter. Let me tell you something. Every day that goes by, we are one step closer. It's going to just bust wide open. And what a great day that is going to be if you just stop and think about it, where we'll be able to, all of us, because we know, right? We know the importance of Göbekli Tepe. We know that. We know the importance of Puma Punku. We know that. We know the importance of Giza. We know these things, right? We do. But when that awakening happens, when the real deal something, that undeniable thing breaks out, we get to kick back and go, told you so. That's right. Got to thank Scott Wolter tonight, host of America Unearthed. Go check out hookedx.com. Get the book. I'm telling you, the Akhenaten book. Get that. Chapter 8, the Sea Document, worth its weight in gold. Follow Scott, Real Scott Wolter, on Twitter. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. That puts another episode of Fade to Black in the can. The show's executive producer is Rita Kamarian. The show is produced by Hilton J. Paul, Mark D. Kovar, LJ3, Renee Jonas. Thank you, Dennis. Thank you, Bob. Announcers are Steve Harder, Gene Vito, and Mark D. Kovar. Fady by Dale. Webmaster, Drew the Geek. Music, Doug Aldrich. You see the video of Doug? Did you see that today? Posted on Twitter? Intro, Spaceboy, spaceboymusic.com. Fade to Black is produced by KJCR for the Game Changer Network. Syndication is KGRA The Planet. Tomorrow night, John Rappaport, Fader Night. No more fake newsroom live and open lines all night long. This broadcast is owned and copyrighted 2017 by Fade to Black and the Game Changer Network. It cannot be rebroadcast, downloaded, copied, or used anywhere in the known universe without written permission from Fade to Black or the Game Changer Network. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Follow me on Twitter at JChurchRadio. Everybody be safe. Göbekli Tepe.